I live in a world where, after the wars, there are barely any men left. Now, for every man, there are 5 women, and the government gives out wives for money. I'm a blind beggar, barely able to feed myself. But when the last girl fell to her knees in front of me and whispered,
"Please, take me. If you walk away, my father will kill me."
I couldn't take it anymore. I simply took her hand and walked away. That's how I got my first wife. And that was only the beginning. Guys, if you haven't seen the previous parts, you'll find the links in the description and the pinned comment. Now, let's get to the story. In the previous part, Qingxiu, skillfully maneuvering between court intrigues and family conflicts, crushed the Lu family schemes, turned former enemies to his side, exposed hired assassins, and secured the public execution of Duke Lu Zhenghui. His harem grew with new women, including Jiang Yener, who made a great personal sacrifice for him, and Princess Xiangqing, with whom he held a grand wedding. After the celebration, Qingxiu once again found himself at the center of court attention. He won a bet on his horseshoes, emptying the officials' purses, and was granted a palace. But peace did not last long. The very next morning, he was summoned to an urgent military council. There, he learned alarming news. The Turkic Kogangeli was leading 200,000 troops, and within 5 days they would reach the Wei River, right at the gates of Chang'an. Now the empire must decide who will lead the army to meet the enemy, and Qingxiu, despite joking about his blindness, proposed a risky yet strategically sound plan: to test in battle the new army he had personally trained, a suggestion that immediately sparked heated debate among the generals. Since Qingxiu came to the Tang dynasty, it has been less than a year, yet he has already made remarkable achievements, and his status has risen as fast as a rocket. At such a young age, he had already become equivalent to a duke of the state. Naturally, this drew the jealousy of those who had served as officials for many years without gaining any title. These people had a common problem: they could not bear to see others doing better than themselves and had to oppose whatever others did. Among the officials who voiced opposition, some indeed had this mindset. There were only so many iron rice bowls, and if one person took on everything, it was bound to cause exclusion from colleagues. Not only were there civil officials jealous and unhappy, but even among military officials, there were also those who felt resentful. Zhang Liang stepped forward and said, "Your Majesty, I agree with these colleagues. In the past, recruitment and enlistment required at least half a year of training before going into battle to kill the enemy. Now these recruits have only trained for 3 months. Even if they have been trained in formations to counter cavalry, when they go to the battlefield for the first time, mistakes are inevitable. As Minister Lu said, one wrong move could cost 100,000 lives. Sending recruits to the battlefield before they are fully trained is irresponsible toward their lives. I believe that, while the Turks have not yet attacked, we should quickly summon nearby troops to reinforce Chang'an. Even if our numbers are slightly inferior, with proper command, it is not impossible to fight a battle." Qingxiu quickly added, Yes, Your Majesty, these lords speak very reasonably. I was just making a suggestion. If Your Majesty thinks it's risky for recruits to go to war, then you can adopt their opinions." Li Er looked at him strangely and asked, "Marquis Qing, just now you said that grinding stones are meant to be used. Why have you changed your words now?" Qingxiu shook his head and smiled. "Your Majesty, I just want to ask, am I a civil official or a military official?" Up to now, he still didn't know whether he belonged to the civil or military ranks. Moreover, so far, he didn't hold any real official post. He only had the title of Zhenguohou, Marquis guarding the state. If Li Er hadn't summoned him, he wouldn't even qualify to attend the morning court. This question immediately caught Li Er off guard. Li Er looked at Qingxiu with a stunned expression and awkwardly asked, "So, does Marquis Qing want to be a civil official or a military official?" Qingxiu answered without hesitation, "Of course a civil official. I'm totally in the dark. If I became a military official, wouldn't I be a laughingstock?" Chang Yaojin tugged his sleeve, frowned, and whispered, "Kid, what's wrong with you? Why are you suddenly trying to get into the civil officials group? Wouldn't it be fine to be an idle military official like me?" "No way." Qingxiu pouted immediately. "What's good about being a military official? As soon as there's a war, you have to go fight, eating in the wind and sleeping under the sky, not to mention being responsible for the lives of tens of thousands of soldiers. Uncle Chang, do you see the words, 'I can fight,' written on my face?" Chang Yaojin was left speechless, let out 2 snorts, and had nothing to say. Li Er suddenly smiled and said, "You want to be a civil official, but the title I gave you, Zhenguohou, is a military title. So you'd better honestly stay in the military officials group." Qingxiu muttered in a low voice. "Then why did you even ask me whether I wanted to be civil or military? You could have just decided it right away instead of talking so much." "What did you say?" Li Er asked suspiciously. Because the complaint was too quiet, only the few military generals beside him heard it. It didn't reach Li Er's ears. Nothing, nothing, Qingxiu quickly shook his head. If your majesty says I am a civil official, then I am a civil official. If your majesty says I am a military official, then I will be a military official from now on. Li Er nodded and, after pondering for a while, looked around the hall and said loudly. Li Jing, step forward to receive your appointment. Your subject is here. Li Jing immediately stepped forward and cupped his fists in salute. I appoint you as Grand Commander of the Guanyi Route Army, leading 100,000 new troops and about 50,000 Imperial Guard cavalry, fully responsible for fighting the Turks. Your subject accepts the decree. Li Jing accepted with high spirits. Many military officials looked helpless and envious. Making Li Jing the Grand Commander meant that if this battle was won, the greatest credit would be his. Now Li Jing's position in the military ranks was already number one. If he earned even more military merit, would there be any room left for others? Marquis Zhenghua Qingxiu, step forward to receive your appointment. Qingxiu was instantly dumbfounded, the corners of his mouth twitching uncontrollably. Cheng Yaojin chuckled, nudged him with his elbow, and whispered. Brat, hurry up and step forward. Do you want His Majesty to come down and invite you personally before you'll move? Qingxiu had no choice but to brace himself and walk out weakly, saying without enthusiasm. Your subject receives the decree. Li Er frowned at his slouching posture and suddenly scolded. Stand up straight for me. Show some spirit. Instead, Qingxiu lowered his head even more. This almost made Li Er's nose crooked with anger. Pointing at Marquis Qing, his hand trembled as he rebuked. As a military official, how can you have no energy at all? Look at yourself, what part of you looks like a military official? Where has the momentum gone of a great rock rises with the wind in one day, soaring up 90,000 li? Where is the grand ambition of settling the affairs of the ruler and gaining fame in life and after death? Now I'm giving you the chance to settle the affairs of the ruler. The country is in danger, 200,000 Turkic cavalry are about to be at the gates. How can you act like this? Are you worthy of the bold words in those poems you wrote? Qingxiu's whole body trembled, and he felt a bit ashamed. Those poems were just plagiarized to show off, he never expected they would become his stumbling block. Li Er, hating iron for not becoming steel, said. Since you have no heart for war, then just keep being your carefree marquis. Better yet, when the Turks break through Chang'an, you can still stay in your land of pleasure as that kind of carefree marquis. Qingxiu's body trembled again, and scenes of 200,000 Turkic cavalry breaking into Chang'an, burning, killing, and looting flashed in his mind. The men of Chang'an would all be killed, and the women would all be stripped naked and humiliated by the Turks. Just half a year ago, the Tang dynasty had experienced the humiliation of Bema, having to give huge amounts of gold and silver to gain a period of peace. Now, with the Turkic army invading again, another humiliation like Bema was entirely possible. And because of him, the battle to destroy the Turks in the 4th year of Zhenguan had been brought forward to the 1st year of Zhenguan. The changes were too great. He had completely altered the course of history, and whatever the outcome, he would be directly responsible. If changing history because of him caused the tragedy of the Turks massacring the city, then he would truly become a sinner for the ages, a name he could not and would not bear. So, even if for no other reason, just for the sake of his wives and concubines, he could not let the Turkic cavalry set foot on the banks of the Wei River. Otherwise, it would be like lips gone and teeth cold, and there would be no men left in the whole country. Qingxiu instantly straightened his back and said in a loud, clear voice. Your subject, Marquis Zhenghua Qingxiu, receives the decree. This full, powerful voice echoed in every corner of the Hall of Supreme Harmony, carrying great force. All the officials looked at him in surprise. The current Qingxiu was completely different from the slouching, listless marquis just moments ago. Li Er narrowed his eyes and said loudly. I appoint you as Deputy Grand Commander of the Guanyi Route Army. Together with Li Jing, you will discuss and direct the battle to repel the Turks. Your subject receives the decree. Li Er's words awakened him, and he willingly accepted the assignment. Li Er continued. Right Chancellor Chang Sun Wuji, I order you to gather 300,000 shur of grain and fodder within 3 days and send it to the army camp. Your subject receives the decree. Cheng Yaojin, Yu Qijingde, Ho Junji, Zhang Liang, and Duan Zhixuan will all participate in the battle, assisting Li Jing and Marquis Qing in repelling the Turks. Your subjects receive the decree. Everyone answered firmly and powerfully. Li Er continued. Yuan Tiangang, Li Chunfeng, and all the commanders of the Guanyi Route Army will remain. The rest are dismissed from court. 9 people stayed in the Hall of Supreme Harmony, the other civil and military officials all dispersed. Qingxiu did not quite understand why Li Er wanted Yuan Tiangang and Li Chunfeng, those two fortune tellers, to remain. Soon, however, Qingxiu was stunned by Li Er's mysterious move. He heard Li Er say to Yuan Tiangang and Li Chunfeng, "Yuan Tiangang, Li Chunfeng, immediately divine the fortune of this battle." Yuan Tiangang and Li Chunfeng accepted the order, then placed a dark blue bagua diagram in the middle of the hall. The two of them each held a peachwood sword, walked around the diagram, and chanted. Everyone watched them intently, while Qingxiu stood there dumbfounded. Good grief, this was truly a mysterious move. Finally, Yuan Tiangang stopped, narrowed his eyes, counted on his fingers, and then showed a joyful expression. "Your Majesty, this battle will be greatly auspicious." Li Chunfeng also counted on his fingers, nodded, and agreed. Auspicious stars rise in the east, bringing benefit to the Tang dynasty. This is a lucky omen, the battle will surely be won. Qingxiu let out a sudden snort and quickly covered his mouth with his hand to keep from laughing out loud. This action made everyone frown deeply. Yuan Tiangang looked Qingxiu up and down and asked doubtfully, "Marquis Qing, why did you do that? Do you perhaps find this amusing?" Li Chunfeng also frowned, his expression gradually darkening. Li Er said unhappily, "Marquis Qing, why do you laugh in such a solemn setting?" Qingxiu said with an awkward smile, "Your Majesty, I laugh because going to war and still needing to calculate good or bad fortune, if that alone can guarantee victory, then it doesn't matter who commands the army. If victory can be secured just by a divination, we might as well have a dog lead the army." Li Jing's old face immediately darkened. The other generals also looked displeased. Li Er shouted angrily, "What nonsense is that? You lead the dog and follow its orders, see if you can win." Qingxiu continued, "Your Majesty, this is war, not a child's game. All warfare depends on human effort, we cannot decide based on what someone calculates. If these two Taoist masters had predicted defeat, would we not fight the battle?" Li Er said unhappily, "The two Taoist masters are men of great attainment, their divination skills reaching perfection. Every time we divine before a battle, the results are always accurate. I will not allow you to be disrespectful to them." Good grief, Li Er already trusted these two fortune tellers so much. No wonder later in life he would trust a group of monks, even believing a treacherous monk's words about taking elixirs of immortality, and end up ruining his health. Li Chunfeng looked at Qingxiu with contempt and said disdainfully, "I can hear that Marquis Qing looks down on me and Taoist Yuan, and must think we are charlatans who spread nonsense. Do you dare let me divine for you?" Qingxiu's heart skipped a beat. He shook his head and said with a pout, "My fate is mine, not heaven's. I do not have the habit of getting fortunes told. You can go divine for someone else." Good grief, he absolutely couldn't let these two divine for him. If they played a trick and said he had the appearance of an emperor, he might have to leave the Hall of Supreme Harmony lying down today. Li Chunfeng cupped his hands to Li Er and said, "Your Majesty, if Marquis Qing doesn't even dare let me read his face, how can he take on the great responsibility of leading the army?" Li Er looked at Qingxiu and said with a smile, "Marquis Qing, since you don't believe in the Taoist master's abilities, why not let them divine for you and see if they are accurate?" Qingxiu frowned and said, "Your Majesty, this cannot be treated as a game. I have just offended the two Taoist masters. If they hold a grudge and say I have the appearance of an emperor, wanting to use your Majesty's hand to get rid of me, wouldn't I suffer a great loss?" The generals all gasped, then instinctively looked at Li Er's expression. Even Li Er's pupils contracted. Yuan Tiangang and Li Chunfeng instantly became furious. Yuan Tiangang's beard bristled, his eyes widened, and he shouted angrily, "You brat, how dare you insult my integrity? We who cultivate the Tao have pure hearts and good morals, how could we commit such evil acts?" Li Chunfeng also said angrily, "You are judging a gentleman with a petty man's heart, treating us as narrow-minded people. This infuriates me." Li Er waved his hand and said, "Calm down, Taoist masters. Marquis Qing, I know their character very well, they would never do such a thing. Many people at court dislike them, and many have had their faces read by them, yet they are still alive and well, aren't they?" Qingxiu shook his head like a rattle. "No divination, no divination. I simply refuse." Li Chunfeng narrowed his eyes and said, "You're afraid. What are you afraid of?" "Afraid? I'm afraid of your uncle," Qingxiu pouted. "If you're not afraid, why won't you let me read your face and feel your bones?" Li Chunfeng sneered. Qingxiu's face darkened. He stretched out his hand and said, come on, go ahead and feel. You'd better feel carefully. If you can't find anything, I'll chop you into 8 pieces today, not even the Heavenly King himself could save you." Li Chuanfeng's heart trembled, a strange panic rising within him for no clear reason. Li Er hadn't expected that face reading and bone feeling would provoke such a reaction from Qingxiu. His curiosity itched like ants crawling, and regardless of Qingxiu's attitude, he urged. Li Chunfeng, quickly read Marquis Qing's face and feel his bones. Qingxiu said with some disappointment. Your Majesty, you really do want him to read my bones and face. If you decided that from the start, why not just order me directly? Li Er's expression froze and turned slightly awkward. Raising his hand with a forced laugh, he said. Nonsense, I never thought such a thing. Qingxiu sighed. In the end, it seems I was mistaken. Very well, let's fulfill your wish. Go ahead and read my bones and face. Li Er looked a little unnatural and said. Marquis Qing, from your tone, it seems you have some resentment toward me. Qingxiu forced a smile and said. Your Majesty, if the ruler orders the subject to die, the subject must die. Li Er was moved by this, and suddenly stopped Li Chunfeng, saying. Li Chunfeng, let's drop the matter of face reading. From now on, you are not to read Marquis Qing's face or bones, and never bring up the matter again. You two, shake hands and make peace. Wasn't this still face reading and bone feeling? Since ancient times, there have been very few emperors without suspicion. From this, it can be seen that Li Er's suspicion was truly severe. This is an illness and must be cured. Should he suddenly draw his sword, kill Li Er, and make himself emperor? Such a thought suddenly popped into Qingxiu's mind, and he was startled by it. After suppressing this thought, he took the initiative to stretch out his hand and said with a calm smile. Daoistly, didn't you want to read the bones and face of Marquis Zhenghua? This Marquis is not a stingy person. My hand is right here. If Daoistly wants to read my bones and face, you may do so at any time. As long as Li Chunfeng dared to say anything unfavorable to him, Qingxiu was already prepared to immediately draw his sword and cut him down. His sudden change caught everyone present off guard. Li Er shamelessly smiled and said. Marquis Qing, I already said just now, do not mention bone feeling and face reading again. I think we should simply let this matter drop. Qingxiu nodded and said. If that's the case, then. Before he could finish speaking, Li Chunfeng stepped forward, suddenly grabbed Qingxiu's hand, and looked at his palm. One look was enough to shock him. Li Chunfeng's pupils contracted sharply, and a trace of horror flashed in his eyes. Suppressing that trace of horror, he naturally released Qingxiu's hand. Li Er looked at him with a questioning gaze. Li Chunfeng immediately shook his head and said. Marquis Qing's palm shows nothing unusual, only that he is a man of great fortune and high status. Li Er froze for a moment, his expression displeased. Isn't that nonsense? He is already Marquis Zhenghua and my imperial son-in-law, of course he is a man of great fortune and high status. Seeing the atmosphere become awkward, Li Jing suggested. Your Majesty, the matter of war is urgent. Let's talk about the battle first. Li Er nodded immediately. The reason I kept you all here is to discuss the war. At Li Er's order, someone spread out a map of the Guanzhong area on the floor. Li Er pointed with a stick to a certain place and said. This is Xiazhou. Judging by the marching speed of 200,000 men, the Turkic army should have reached Linzhou. From Linzhou to Guanzhong, passing through Jingchuan. After estimating the Turks' marching route, Li Er pointed to a place and said. I suggest setting an ambush at Jinzhou, harassing the Turkic army along the way. We can use the strategy of tiring out the enemy, and from the Jiangzhou area arrange several night raids to cause them great trouble. What do you all think? I believe this is inappropriate, Li Jing said. It's too early to discuss this, we don't yet know the Turks' marching route. Such paper talk without knowing the facts is empty. Oh? Duke Wei, what is your opinion? Li Jing continued. The new army's formation can effectively counter cavalry. The land north of the Wei River is flat and open, thousands of li of fertile land, so the formation cannot be used to its fullest. The formation must be placed south of the Wei River, and it should be in a place with high ground on both sides. We can dig horse traps north of the Wei River to reduce the number of the Turks' war horses. I plan to divide 50,000 veteran cavalry into 5 units, attacking the Turks in turn. But the exact arrangement must wait until scouts determine the Turks' marching route. Everyone nodded repeatedly at his words. Li Er looked at Qingxiu and asked. Marquis Zhenghua, do you have anything to say? After carefully studying the map and thinking deeply, Qingxiu said. I believe we must first determine the ultimate goal of this battle, then discuss how to repel the Turkic cavalry. The Turks are a nomadic people made up of various tribes, living in the Mabe region, occupying the Qilian and Yin mountains, 2 natural barriers. They are easy to defend but hard to attack. Once our army goes deep inside, they will scatter like birds and beasts, spread everywhere. This is why they have never been completely annihilated. I think, if we want to fundamentally eliminate the threat from the Mabe region, we should make a plan to completely wipe out the Turkic cavalry. Duke Wei's proposal can only drive them away, it cannot solve the root problem. Li Jing said with great interest. Marquis Qing, how do you think this battle should be fought? Qingxiu smiled faintly and said. If it were me, I would not send 5 units to harass the Turkic army. I would merge them into one and fight a lightning war first. A lightning war means being as swift as lightning. Send 30,000 cavalry to strike into the Turks' rear, then 20,000 cavalry from the left or right flank to respond. No matter how many we kill, we must not get bogged down. After one charge, we retreat immediately. Li Er frowned. Why respond from the left or right flank instead of the front? Qingxiu explained. Your Majesty, that is a 200,000 strong army, so vast you can't see the end. Charging from the rear to the front would take at least 3 hours and would require at least 100,000 cavalry. We have only 50,000 veteran cavalry for battle. If 20,000 are for response, only 30,000 can charge. Charging straight through won't work. Attacking from the rear left or rear right, with 1 unit to respond, the battle must end within half an hour before retreating. Once the Turks form an encirclement, those 30,000 cavalry will be trapped with no way to escape. Trapped. Everyone looked puzzled. Qingxiu then remembered that the Tang didn't even have steamed buns, let alone dumplings. He explained again. That means surrounded on all sides, with no escape. Li Er's eyes shone. And then? Qingxiu continued. After that, the Turks will think the Tang army is using a strategy to tire them out and will take precautions. Therefore, I would arrange for a second charge from another direction half an hour after the first, while they are still resting. Li Jing's eyes widened, then lit up, and he laughed loudly. Good. Excellent. Strike by surprise, never tire of deception. After the first charge, the Turks will think we are using the tiring strategy and will rest and prepare. At that moment, another charge from a different direction will catch them off guard. Excellent. Brilliant, Cheng Yaojin laughed harshly. 2 charges could kill at least over 10,000 and greatly reduce the number of Turkic cavalry. Kid Qing, you really have it in you, to come up with such a devious tactic. Li Er's eyes sparkled as if seeing a rising star skilled in the art of war. Marquis Qing, continue, don't stop. Qingxiu went on. The raids can only be done twice, a third time won't work. At that point, the cavalry involved in the raids should rest, then return to Weinan at the fastest speed. In this way, the Turkic cavalry will march in a highly tense state, not knowing when the Tang army might strike again. Keeping them constantly on alert is also a way to tire the enemy. Qingxiu's ideas made everyone nod in praise again and again. And then? Everyone looked at Qingxiu impatiently. Qingxiu smiled and said, I think the 100,000 new troops should not be stationed south of the Wei River, nor north of the Wei River, but in Shanzhou. Li Er, Li Jing, Cheng Yaojin, Yu Qigong, apart from Yuan Tiangang and Li Chunfeng, everyone stared at Qingxiu with wide eyes, as if they had seen a ghost. Zhang Liang frowned. Marquis Qing, Shanzhou is dozens of li north of the Wei River's northern bank, far from the Wei River battle zone. Why station 100,000 new troops in Shanzhou? So they can settle down there and sleep? Ho Junji wanted to speak but stopped. Though he didn't ask directly like Zhang Liang, he had the same question. Li Jing looked at the map and fell into deep thought. Li Er frowned and said, the Turkic army will drive straight into the Wei River area and pass through Shanzhou. If the Turkic army has already reached the Wei River will surely become the battlefield. Arranging the formation in Shanzhou would not be appropriate, would it? Moreover, Shanzhou is 50 or 60 li from the battlefield. If the Turkic army breaks through the Tang defenses and drives straight into Chang'an, waiting for the 100,000 new troops to rush over to help will be far too late. At this moment, Li Jing suddenly slapped his forehead and laughed. I understand. Marquis Qing, your plan to station troops in Shanzhou is not to intercept the Turks but to stop them when they retreat, right? Qingxiu smiled and nodded. As expected of Duke Wei, exactly so. Zhang Liang's mouth twitched, and he said angrily. This is nonsense. Do you expect 50,000 cavalry to stop the retreat of 150,000 Turkic iron cavalry? Qingxiu said unhappily. Of course we don't only have 50,000 cavalry. Your Majesty, don't forget, we also have the Air Force. Li Er's gaze froze for a moment. The others also looked utterly confused. Cheng Yaojin asked doubtfully. Air Force? What is the Air Force? An empty army with nothing in it? Li Er said excitedly. Yes. How could I have forgotten the Air Force? Li Jing was also puzzled. Your Majesty, what is the Air Force? Li Er pointed to the sky and laughed. The Air Force, of course, is an army in the sky. Everyone widened their eyes, looking at Li Er in disbelief. Your Majesty, Yu Qigong said, I, old Yuchi, never read books, but don't try to fool me. How could there be an army that can fly in this world? Li Er smiled and said. Since things have come to this, I won't hide it from you all. Marquis Qing invented something called a hot air balloon. As long as you light a fire, it can carry several people into the sky. The only drawback is that it can only go straight up and down. It cannot fly forward, backward, left, or right. Cheng Yaojin was dumbfounded. If it can't fly forward, backward, left, or right, then what's the use of the Air Force? Li Er looked at Qingxiu, chuckled, and said, Marquis Qing, continue speaking. After you're done, I'll let them learn about the Air Force. Qingxiu continued with a smile. I also know that 50,000 cavalry cannot stop 150,000 iron cavalry, but don't forget, we have a natural barrier, the Wei River. The Turkic cavalry will not find it easy to cross the river, and even going around it will waste a lot of time. Once the Turkic cavalry enter the Wei River battle zone, 50,000 cavalry will engage them. After the cavalry, we release some hot air balloons carrying crossbows that fire grenades, while on the ground the artillery carts fire shells. Without even needing the cavalry to fight, the Turkic army will fall into chaos. When have horses ever heard the sound of grenades and cannons? The deafening noise will surely cause the horses to panic and run in all directions. At that time, we can send some cavalry to encircle and kill these headless flies on the outer edge. As for those inside, Qingxiu chuckled, as for those inside, since they're surrounded by Turkic cavalry, they'll be the main target of our artillery fire. Li Jing's spirit lifted. Yes. That's exactly how we should fight. Once Jieli Khan's army flees, they will choose the easiest and fastest road out of Guangzhou, and that road runs through Shanzhou. Coordinating with the 100,000 new troops stationed there, we can wipe out the Turkic barbarians in one stroke. Cheng Yaojin and Yu Qigong were stunned. They suddenly remembered the grenades and cannons Qingxiu had introduced 2 months ago. Thinking of their power, they both shivered involuntarily. Zhang Liang, Hou Junji, and Duan Zhixuan, however, were completely puzzled. They didn't even know what cannons and grenades were. Li Er clapped his hands and smiled, looking at Zhang Liang, Duan Zhixuan, and Hou Junji. You three have not yet seen the Tang's national treasures. I will now take you to the Ministry of Works to see the hot air balloons, cannons, and grenades. So, Li Er led the way to the Ministry of Works. In the past 2.5 months, the Ministry of Works had already produced over 100 cannons and several thousand shells. As for grenades, there were thousands of bamboo tube grenades and several hundred iron grenades. Because iron was harder to work with, producing several hundred in 2.5 months was already quite good. The Ministry of Works had now effectively become Li Er's imperial armory. Aside from producing swords and armor, all manpower and time were devoted to producing cannons and grenades. A cannon was brought out for a test, its power shocked Zhang Liang, Hou Junji, and Duan Zhixuan on the spot. Then they saw the grenades in action, and the three of them were amazed by their destructive force. When everyone finally saw the hot air balloons rise into the sky, each of them looked as if they could fit a whole egg in their mouths. It had to be said, the craftsmen under Li Er were truly skilled. The balloons produced were even larger, with baskets that could hold 7 or 8 people, and equipped with huge slingshots on top. Yes, slingshots. It took 2 or 3 people to pull them back, and they were designed to launch grenades. But the slingshots were fitted with winch mechanisms, so even one person could easily operate them by turning the crank. When designing these giant winch slingshots, the craftsmen had consulted Qingxiu many times at Li Er's request. As the slingshot launched a grenade several hundred meters away, the sound of people swallowing hard could be heard around Qingxiu and Li Er. Hou Junji was the first to recover, smiling bitterly. Your Majesty, with such divine weapons, why do we even need men on the battlefield? With enough hot air balloons and cannons in the rear, forget the Turks' 200,000 troops, even 2 million would be blasted into chaos. Duan Zhixuan sighed. This battle will surely be won, it will be completely one-sided. I'm truly looking forward to it. Li Er said with a laugh. Discussing the war now is still just talk. The exact plan will be decided by the two commanders, Li Jing and Qingxiu. Today, everyone should go back and rest well. Tomorrow morning, we will muster the troops and set up camp. Everyone cupped their hands and took their leave. Li Jing, Cheng Yaojin, and the others went straight to the camp, while Qingxiu returned home. After sending off the generals, Li Er was about to return to the palace when he noticed that Yuan Tiangang and Li Chunfeng had not left. Why have the two Taoist masters not gone? Li Er asked in confusion. Yuan Tiangang also looked at Li Chunfeng in puzzlement. Li Chunfeng's expression suddenly became agitated. Your Majesty, I am guilty, I have committed the crime of deceiving the emperor. Li Er frowned. How has Taoist Li deceived me? When I read Marquis Qing's bones and face earlier, it was not as I said. His palm and facial features are far too astonishing. I had no choice but to lie to your majesty. Li Er's heart trembled. He said nothing, just beckoned to Li Chunfeng and turned to walk toward the Hall of Supreme Harmony. Yuan Tiangang and Li Chunfeng followed him inside. Qingxiu stood outside the Changtian gate, taking in Li Er and Li Chunfeng's every movement. Although he still didn't know what had happened, from the way the two behaved, he could tell that Li Chunfeng's earlier words about a man of great fortune and high status were definitely just a cover. Unfortunately, he didn't have ears that could hear the wind, so he couldn't make out what the two were talking about. Li Er, oh Li Er, go ahead and keep it up, Qingxiu muttered to himself, shaking his head before getting into the carriage and leaving the imperial city. Inside the Hall of Supreme Harmony, Li Er ordered everyone to leave, keeping only Yuan Tiangang and Li Chunfeng. Speak, what did you find from your bone feeling and face reading? Li Er stared at Li Chunfeng without blinking, his mind also wandering. What if Li Chunfeng was actually narrow-minded and, just to stir up trouble, randomly claimed that Marquis Qing had the appearance of an emperor? While Li Er was still lost in these thoughts, Li Chunfeng began to speak. With a slightly excited expression, Li Chunfeng said, Your Majesty, although I have not been practicing for long, when it comes to the art of face reading in the Tang today, if I claim to be second, no one would dare claim to be first. At the side, Yuan Tiangang nodded slightly, showing agreement with Li Chunfeng's statement. Li Chunfeng continued. From the outside, Marquis Qing's palm and facial features indeed belong to a man of great fortune and high status. But I looked beyond the surface and saw a hidden side to his face. Oh? Li Er asked in puzzlement, what hidden side? Li Chunfeng's face suddenly turned red with excitement. I discovered that Marquis Qing's fate pattern, his life trajectory, suddenly began in the early Zhenguan era. Before the early Zhenguan era, there was no trace of him at all. Li Er asked, still confused. And what does that mean? Li Chunfeng's voice trembled. Your Majesty, there is only one explanation, that is, Marquis Qing is not one of our Tang people. Li Er nearly dropped his jaw, staring at Li Chunfeng in shock. After a while, he asked in bewilderment. Marquis Qing looks like a Tang man, how could he not be Tang? Don't tell me Marquis Qing is a Persian. Li Chunfeng shook his head. No. When I say Marquis Qing is not Tang, I mean that it is very likely he is not of this world at all. Li Er drew in a sharp breath and asked in astonishment. An immortal? Could it be he came from the White Jade capital? Li Chunfeng pondered. It's not impossible. But I can be certain that Marquis Qing is not a native-born Tang man. I calculated his life trajectory, it suddenly appeared in the early Zhenguan era. Before that, there was no trace at all, as if he had appeared out of thin air. Li Er frowned in thought after hearing this. Looking at Li Chunfeng, he said with a serious expression. To be honest, I actually sent people to investigate Marquis Qing's background half a year ago. But after all this time, not even the slightest useful information was found. He really did seem to appear out of nowhere. After Li Er finished speaking, he muttered to himself. An old man from the depths of the Qinling Mountains who came from the White Jade capital? Could it be that the excuse you gave to fool us was false, and in fact you yourself came from the White Jade capital? Hearing Li Er's muttering, Li Chunfeng's body trembled, and his eyes suddenly lit up. Your Majesty, could it be that Marquis Qing truly came from the White Jade capital? Li Er's face hardened as he shook his head. What White Jade capital? No matter where he came from, I only know that since Marquis Qing arrived in the Tang, the common people's lives have improved, the state treasury has become richer, and the military has grown stronger. No matter his origin, for the Tang he is all benefit and no harm. Li Chunfeng, is this all you saw? Did you notice anything else? Li Chunfeng was momentarily taken aback, then said seriously. I discovered that Marquis Qing's blessings are deep, and there is a golden dragon of fate circling his body, extremely magnificent. Li Er suddenly stood up, eyes wide open. An imperial aura? Did you really see an imperial aura? Li Chunfeng shook his head. Your Majesty, I can be certain, this is not an imperial aura. It looks more like what? Speak quickly. Li Er urged anxiously. Li Chunfeng spoke each word clearly. Like national destiny. Hiss. Li Er sucked in a sharp breath and dropped heavily into the dragon throne, his face full of shock. Li Chunfeng explained. When I read your Majesty's face, your imperial aura was very thick and heavy, and its golden light was pure. Marquis Qing's golden dragon of fate does not have pure color, it is mixed with multicolored halos, which are very similar to the aura of the Tang's national destiny. Li Er said excitedly. Could it be that Marquis Qing carries the Tang's national destiny on him? Li Chunfeng did not answer but instead looked at Yuan Tiangang. Yuan Tiangang pondered and said, to know whether he bears the national destiny, I can perform a divination to find out. Li Er urged. Then please, Taoist Yuan, make the divination quickly. Without another word, Yuan Tiangang sat cross-legged on the ground, took a tortoise shell and 16 ancient coins from his sleeve pocket, placed the coins inside the shell, shook it 3 times to the left, 3 times to the right, 3 times forward, then held the shell in both hands and tucked it into his sleeve, closing his eyes tightly, looking very solemn. Li Er and Li Chunfeng didn't dare disturb him. After about the time it takes to drink a cup of tea, Yuan Tiangong's face flushed red. Opening his eyes with joy, he said, "Your Majesty, it has changed, it has changed." "What has changed?" Li Er asked. Yuan Tiangang said excitedly. "The Tang's national destiny has changed. The last time I calculated it, it was like a river or lake, lasting only a mere 300 years or so. But this time, the aura of national destiny stretches like the boundless sea, endless to the eye, exceeding the original by who knows how many times, at least 1,000 years, if not more." Li Er was overjoyed. "Is this true?" "It is true. But I still need to see the final hexagram." Yuan Tiangang poured the coins from the shell, separated them, and arranged them into a square shape. After studying the hexagram carefully, he suddenly frowned and looked shocked. This shouldn't be. How could this be?" Li Er asked urgently. "What is it, Taoist Yuan?" Yuan Tiangang picked out 8 coins, held them in his hand, closed his eyes and shook them, then placed them on the ground and looked at them, his expression growing increasingly grim. Li Er pressed. "What did you see? Speak. Are you trying to make me die of suspense?" Yuan Tiangong's face turned pale, like that of someone in mourning, and he said in a wailing voice, "Your Majesty, the national destiny is going to run away, it is going to run away." "What? The national destiny can run away?" Li Er's mood was like riding a roller coaster. Yuan Tiangang said bitterly, "I discovered that the great fate which had already merged with the Tang's national destiny has begun to show signs of deviation, and the deviation is very obvious. At this rate, within a month, this sudden great fate will completely vanish." Li Er's face went white, as if struck by lightning. How could this happen? And what about the Tang's original national destiny? What he feared most was that the original 300+ years of Tang's national destiny might be dragged off course by this great fate, and then who could he complain to? Yuan Tiangang explained. "The Tang's original national destiny is still here and has even grown quite a bit, but what I don't understand is, why would this sudden great fortune want to run away? This shouldn't be." Li Er became anxious, stood up, and began pacing. Suddenly, Yuan Tiangang seemed to think of something. He looked sharply at Li Chunfeng, his face filled with shock. "Taoist Li, the national destiny I just saw was almost exactly the same as the golden dragon of fortune you spoke of. Could it be, could it be?" Li Chunfeng was also shocked. "You mean, the Tang's national destiny is entirely tied to this?" Yuan Tiangang slapped his forehead, got up from the ground, and urged, "Your Majesty, quickly go find Marquis Qing, Marquis Qing is going to run." Li Er froze, looking completely dumbfounded. Yuan Tiangang became a little anxious. "Your Majesty, hurry. If you don't go stop Marquis Qing now, I fear he'll leave." Li Er snapped out of it, still confused, and asked, "Why would Marquis Qing run? And what does whether he leaves or not have to do with the Tang's national destiny?" Yuan Tiangang quickly explained. "The national destiny I calculated matches the great fortune Taoist Li found on Marquis Qing. Marquis Qing's great fortune is the Tang's national destiny. If the national destiny is about to run away, doesn't that mean Marquis Qing is about to leave the Tang?" Li Er's face changed. He shouted toward the door, "Guards! Prepare a horse, quickly!" Very soon, a member of the Imperial Guard took the order and went to the Imperial stables to bring a horse. Li Er gathered his robe and continued pacing. At that moment, the sound of light footsteps came from behind a screen. Wearing a phoenix robe, exuding noble grace, with a graceful figure and dignified demeanor, Empress Changsun stepped out from behind the screen, a faint smile on her face. Upon seeing Li Er, she smiled and said, "I heard your Majesty had finished morning court, so I boiled red date and white fungus porridge to bring you a bowl." Li Er didn't respond to Empress Changsun at all. When he saw the Imperial Guards bring a horse, he quickly rushed out, not even turning his head, and said, "Empress, I'll drink the porridge later. I have urgent business, I must go out at once." After speaking, Li Er mounted the horse in one motion and quickly said to Wang De, "Wang De, issue my order immediately, close all city gates of Chang'an at once. People can enter, but no one may leave. Drive on." Then Li Er, without even changing his clothes, pulled the reins and galloped away. A squad of Imperial Guards quickly mounted their horses and chased after him to escort him. This whole series of actions left Empress Changsun completely stunned. What's going on? She couldn't help but look at Wangda and ask, "Wangda, what's wrong with His Majesty? Why is he in such a rush?" While writing and stamping documents, Wangda explained, "Marquis Qing is going to run away, and the national destiny is going to run away. His Majesty went to chase him." "What?" This, Empress Changsun was completely puzzled. Yuan Tiangang quickly explained the whole matter. After hearing it, Empress Changsun's expression also changed, and she hurriedly arranged for a carriage to leave the palace, heading toward the direction of the Marquis Qing's residence. At the same time, in a carriage headed toward the city gates, an entire family was crowded together inside. Su Xiaochun, full of doubt, asked, "Husband, why did you suddenly decide to go back to Sanha village? And leaving in such a hurry, did something happen?" Qingxiu smiled faintly, then sighed and said, "It's nothing. The war is about to start. 200,000 Turkic cavalry are marching on Chang'an. His Majesty appointed me as Deputy Grand Commander of the Guanyi Route Army, together with Li Jing as Grand Commander, to resist the Turkic cavalry." Su Xiaochun, Yunyang, and the others were all shocked, then showed worried expressions. Changsun Pingting said unhappily, "How could His Majesty do this? My husband is blind, how could he send you to war? On the battlefield, swords have no eyes. If something were to happen to you, how would this whole family live?" Yunyang quickly covered Changsun Pingting's mouth, her face paling. "Bah, bah, bah. You only know how to speak bad luck. Can't you say something nice?" Lu Yunyan, however, smiled faintly and said, "Put your minds at ease. Although my husband is blind, his ears work well. If nothing else, he can absolutely protect himself." Having personally seen Qingxiu's combat ability, Lu Yunyan was completely confident in him going to the battlefield. Li Yuqing also nodded. "Yunyan is right, my husband's martial skill is exceptional. Even thousands of troops couldn't stop him." Changsun Pingting pouted. "I'm just worried. I've never seen how strong my husband really is, so how would I know?" Li Yuchan poked Changsun Pingting in the ribs and whispered with a playful smile, "If you want to know how strong he is, just find out for yourself tonight." Changsun Pingting blushed at once and started playfully fighting with Li Yuchan. Su Xiaochun frowned. "You two, stop it. All you know is how to fool around. In such a cramped carriage, is this the place for that?" The two stopped obediently. It had to be said, Su Xiaochun, as the principal wife, still carried a lot of authority. Qingxiu smiled faintly. "There's no need to worry. Aunt Qing and Yunyan are right, even thousands of troops couldn't stop me. Besides, I'm a commander. What commander goes charging into battle? Don't they all stay in the rear to direct the fighting?" Su Xiaochun thought for a moment, then nodded and smiled. "That's true. But if we just leave like this, what about our princess? Princess Xiangqing is still at the prince consort's residence waiting for you to come home. By now, she's probably looking forward to it desperately." Qingxiu said. "I've already had Xuanzi arrange a carriage to fetch her. She'll definitely arrive in Sanha village before lunch. The reason I'm sending you all to Sanha village is because the battlefield will be too close to Chang'an, only a few dozen li away. It's better to be safe than sorry. If there's a mistake on the battlefield that lets the Turkic army break through the Tang defenses and enter Chang'an to burn, kill, and loot, it would endanger your safety. Although Chang'an is easy to defend and hard to attack, 200,000 troops could take a city, it's only a matter of time. Sanha village is our main base, grenades and cannons are there, and there are also 1,000 well-trained guards. It's behind Chang'an, so to get to Sanha village, the enemy would have to take Chang'an first. Sending you there is the safest choice." The wives all nodded in agreement. "There's another reason," Qingxiu paused, then said with feeling. "Once the war is over, I plan to stay in Sanha village and no longer attend morning court, just keep to Sanha village and live our family life. If even in Sanha village I can't avoid court politics, then we'll move either to Jiangnan or Luoyang. The world is big, there's bound to be a place for us to settle." At least, that was Qingxiu's plan. After all, there were too many traps in court, one careless move could destroy the family. Just like today, a few careless words from a fortune teller saying he had the appearance of an emperor could plant a seed of suspicion in the emperor's heart. And there was also the lack of trust Li Er had shown, which left him disheartened. Anyway, he already had his title. In the future, he could simply keep a low profile, and if that didn't work, he'd resign and retire. Hearing their husband say this, the women's hearts all skipped a beat. They all knew Qingxiu's character. If nothing major had happened, he would never make such a decision. Li Er galloped to the prince consort's residence and happened to see a carriage leaving the gate. He quickly told the guard beside him to stop the carriage and himself rode forward to approach it. At that moment, a crisp and pleasant voice came from inside the carriage. "Why has the carriage stopped?" Immediately after, Princess Xiangqing lifted the curtain. Seeing Li Er, she was first surprised, then quickly got down from the carriage and asked, "Father Emperor, why have you come?" Li Er asked urgently. "Why are you the only one in the carriage? Where is the prince consort? Where did he go?" Li Liju answered truthfully. "Just now, my husband sent someone to deliver a message, telling me to pack up and go to Sanha village. As for the exact reason, I don't know. Does Father Emperor need something from the prince consort?" Li Er said bitterly. "So he really wants to leave. Why is this happening? Could it be that he got upset and left because I asked Li Chunfeng to read his face?" Princess Xiangqing asked doubtfully. "What does Father Emperor mean by that? Who is going to leave?" Li Er had no time to explain so much and said instead, "You go back to the prince consort's residence first. The city gates have been sealed by me, no one can leave for now. Stay obediently at the prince consort's residence and don't wander about, understand?" Princess Xiangqing pressed further. "Why did Father Emperor order the city gates to be closed? Why won't you let me go out? Has something happened? I don't have time to explain right now. Do as I say. Go back." After saying this, Li Er mounted his horse again and sped toward the Marquis Qing's residence. Li Liju hesitated for a moment, then said helplessly, "Let's go back." Although she didn't know what had happened, she didn't dare disobey Li Er's orders. Besides, Li Er was her father. As Li Er rode, he grumbled inwardly, "Leave if you want, but you even want to take away my precious daughter? Even the princess you want to take with you, looks like Marquis Qing is truly determined to leave. Just where have I offended him?" Li Er truly couldn't figure it out. Soon, Li Er arrived at the Marquis Qing's residence. He had been there twice before, and old Lu, who guarded the gate, had seen him before. Old Lu immediately hobbled over on one leg. "This commoner greets your majesty." Li Er asked. "Is Marquis Qing at home?" Old Lu explained truthfully. "About the time it takes to burn one stick of incense ago, my lord took his whole family and left. By now, he's probably already out of the city. Is there something your majesty needs from my lord? Should I send someone to deliver a message?" Li Er's heart jolted. He's already out of the city? That brat sure runs fast. Just as Li Er was about to continue the chase, a carriage stopped at the gate of the Marquis Qing's residence. A chubby middle-aged man stepped down with a smiling face and said, "Your Majesty, why have you come to the Marquis Qing's residence?" Right after, two more people got out of the carriage. One was Cheng Chumo, the other was Cui Yunyan. There was no need to ask, the chubby middle-aged man was Cheng Yaojin. In a rush, Li Er quickly took out a gold medallion from his person and threw it to a guard, urging, "Go to the city gate immediately and see if Marquis Qing has left the city. If not, keep an eye on him for me. If he has, you may summon the city's defense commander to bring him back." The guard clasped his fists and rode off. Cheng Yaojin asked in confusion, "What is your majesty going to do?" It had been many years since he had seen Li Er personally ride to a minister's home. Now that Li Er had personally come to the Marquis Qing's residence, Cheng Yaojin guessed that something major must have happened. Li Er dismounted, rubbed his backside, then sat heavily on the steps and complained, "No saddle at all, my backside is almost rubbed raw. You there, go into the Marquis Qing's residence and find me a saddle to put on." "Yes, this commoner will go at once." Old Lu quickly hobbled back into the residence to fetch a saddle. Li Er looked up at Cheng Yaojin and asked, "Cheng Jijia, what brings you to the Marquis Qing's residence?" Cheng Yaojin knew to prioritize and had to answer when Li Er asked. "I brought my son and niece to visit, and also," Cheng Yaojin looked a little awkward, "and also to have my niece get familiar with the place and discuss her marriage with him." Cui Yunyan's face turned slightly red, and she lowered her head shyly. Normally, in this era, an unmarried young lady could not enter her future husband's house before marriage. It was believed that an unmarried woman carried in and would bring bloodshed. But Cui Yunyan was different. She was a widow and had already married once, so this belief didn't apply to her. Li Er glanced at Cui Yunyan and asked in puzzlement, "Cheng Yaojin, you actually have such a beautiful niece? Why have I never heard you mention her before? And, when you say you came to discuss their marriage, who exactly do you mean?" Cheng Yaojin explained, "Your Majesty may not know, she is the niece from the family of my second wife." Li Er was surprised. "From the Cui clan of Qinghe?" Cheng Yaojin nodded. Li Er looked bewildered. "When you say, the two of them, you don't mean your niece and Marquis Qing, do you?" Cheng Yaojin grinned. "Heh, exactly." Li Er was shocked. A woman from the Cui clan of Qinghe to be his concubine? After saying this, Li Er froze, coughing awkwardly twice. He had almost forgotten, his own daughter, a princess, was also this man's concubine. What was so special about the Cui clan of Qinghe? It wasn't more noble than the royal family. If a princess could be a concubine, then a Cui woman certainly could. Cheng Yaojin chuckled. In the past, being a concubine would have been out of the question. My father-in-law from the Chui clan, her grandfather, would never have agreed. But my niece is a widow, and recently my father-in-law asked me to find her a suitable husband. I've nearly searched the whole of Chang'an. If it's not a spoiled second generation, it's a loafer. None of them are worthy of my niece. After thinking it over, I thought of Marquis Qing. They are close in age, he is a young talent. Even though, among his peers, he has many wives and concubines, he is still a promising marquis. So I decided to match them up, and, unexpectedly, it worked. Lier's mouth twitched, and he rolled his eyes. Marquis Qing's wives and concubines must be in double digits by now, almost more than my imperial consorts, and you still want to push your niece into that pit? Cheng Yaojin blinked and said, Your Majesty, yesterday I went to the prince consort's residence to attend a wedding feast. Lier's face darkened, and he turned his head to shout. Is the saddle ready yet? Hurry up. If you delay my important business, I'll break your other leg too. Coming. Old Lu came hobbling out carrying a set of tack and quickly fitted it onto Lier's horse. Cheng Yaojin smiled, then turned back with a puzzled look and asked. Your Majesty still hasn't said why you're looking for Marquis Qing. Why are you in such a hurry? And why call on the city's defense commander to chase him? During duty hours, a city defense commander was not allowed to leave his post without permission, otherwise, it was a capital crime. After all, guarding the city was guarding the nation's gates. Without an imperial order, even if one's parents died, they could not abandon their post. While the saddle was being fitted, Lier quickly told the whole story from start to finish. Cheng Yaojin's tiger-like eyes widened, his face full of shock. What? That kid wants to run away? How can that be? I still need to become relatives with him, he hasn't even married my niece yet. How can he just walk away? Even if he leaves, he should at least take his bride to be with him, right? No way. I will go with your Majesty to chase him. As he spoke, Cheng Yaojin began untying the horses from his carriage. Lier, seeing this, did not stop him. He mounted his horse and said, I'll wait for you ahead, then rode away. After Cheng Yaojin also mounted and left. Cui Yunyan said anxiously, Chumo, you go quickly and see what's going on. If something happens, remember to come back and tell me. I understand, cousin. Cheng Chumo looked left and right but couldn't find a horse, so he had no choice but to grit his teeth and run toward the city gate on foot. Luckily the gate wasn't far, otherwise he might have dropped dead from exhaustion. At this moment, quite a crowd had already gathered at the city gate. Some people anxious to leave the city had begun to grumble, but no one dared to shout loudly. Qingxiu pushed through the crowd, came before a city guard, and shook his waist token. The guard quickly saluted. Greetings to the Marquis who pacifies the nation. Qingxiu put away the token and frowned. What's going on? Why has the city gate suddenly been closed? The guard shook his head. I don't know. Someone from the palace just came with an imperial edict ordering the gate closed. If the Marquis wishes to leave, please wait a while. Our city garrison has a place to rest, would you like to have some tea there while you wait? Qingxiu's heart moved, and he thought, could it be that the gate was closed because of me? Could it be that charlatan Li Chunfeng told Li Er that I have the look of an emperor and might one day rebel and become emperor, so Li Er hurriedly closed the gates to silence me? Just as his mind was racing and his hand tightened on his staff, the sound of hoofbeats came from behind. A rider in bright armor arrived at the gate, quickly took the steps 3 at a time, and looked through the crowd. His eyes fell on Qingxiu, and he immediately glared, taking out Li Er's imperial token and shouting loudly. This is the imperial token granted by His Majesty. All city garrison officers and soldiers are now under my command. Who is the commanding officer? Come see me at once. A man who looked like a general quickly ran down from the city wall. I am the commander here, Han Ming. Greetings, Imperial Envoy. The Imperial Guard said urgently. Immediately gather all nearby men and keep the Marquis who pacifies the nation under guard. If he escapes, none of you will be able to bear the consequences. Han Ming hurriedly waved to the guards on the wall and shouted. All men come down and surround the Marquis who, wait, who did you say? The commander looked at the envoy in disbelief, suspecting he'd misheard. The Marquis who pacifies the nation? That was a famous figure. Just yesterday, the emperor had given him a princess as a concubine. Such an honor showed how highly he was regarded. Given a princess yesterday, and today you want to move against him? That's way too much of a shock. The envoy scolded. Are you deaf? I said the Marquis who pacifies the nation, the one holding a blind man's cane. Quickly surround him. Han Ming immediately gave the order. A squad of city guards, several hundred men, drove the commoners back and surrounded Qingxiu. Qingxiu's face darkened and he gripped his cane tightly. It seemed there would be a fight today. Li Er, you actually believed a charlatan's words and came to arrest me. Truly, a wolf's heart and a dog's lungs. Qingxiu was utterly disappointed in Li Er's actions. He suddenly drew his cane and said coldly, "Open the gate immediately and let me pass, or I will kill everyone here." That chilling aura and cold tone made all the surrounding guards shiver. Even the commander and the envoy couldn't help swallowing nervously. The commander said nervously, "Lord Envoy, why is this? Why does His Majesty want to arrest the Marquis?" Qingxiu's deeds at Qinling Pass had long spread through the streets of Chang'an, and even the garrison soldiers loved to talk about them. His combat ability was not ordinary. If a fight broke out, the gate might be awash in blood. The envoy also shook his head tensely. His Majesty only told me to stop him from leaving the city. If he had already gone before the gates closed, I was to gather the garrison to pursue him. As for why, he is carrying the Great Tang's national fortune. What? The commander was immediately stunned. I'll count to 3. Open the gate, or I will start a massacre. The envoy's eyelid twitched, and he quickly stepped forward and cupped his hands. Please, Marquis, calm yourself. We are just following orders. His Majesty only told us to stop you, he never said to arrest you. His Majesty will be here shortly. Please understand and wait a short while. Qingxiu's mouth twitched, and he immediately sheathed his cane, then stepped forward and kicked the envoy hard to the ground. Grabbing him by the collar, he shouted angrily, "Why didn't you say that earlier? You were acting like you were here to arrest me. I thought you really meant to seize me. Damn it." The envoy quickly forced a smile. "Please calm down, Marquis. I was only afraid you'd run. Get out." Qingxiu threw the envoy several meters away. The envoy was knocked dizzy and, after struggling a few times, finally climbed to his feet. The commander, seeing this, didn't dare breathe loudly. Good heavens, this was the imperial envoy, holding an imperial token. Seeing the token was like seeing the emperor himself, and yet he dared hit him? Wasn't this the same as slapping the emperor's face? The city guard stood frozen in silence. The commoners whispered among themselves. Heavens, the Marquis has quite the temper. He even dares hit the imperial envoy, who represents the emperor. Doesn't that mean he dares to hit the emperor himself? Hiss. Terrifying, absolutely terrifying. Why won't His Majesty let the Marquis leave? Could it be he committed a crime? Probably not. If he had, someone would have seized him already. Didn't you hear? The envoy said His Majesty will be here soon. What? You're saying the emperor is coming? Dear heavens, what an honor, to see the imperial face. This old man's life will be complete. Same for me. I've never seen His Majesty before. I must witness his unmatched presence. As they were speaking, the sound of hoofbeats came from the distance. A man in a dragon robe appeared, followed by dozens in bright armor, riding toward the gate. Li Er, from horseback, looked around. When he saw Qingxiu, joy rose in his heart, and he quickly spurred his horse forward. But when he saw so many people surrounding Qingxiu, he frowned and scolded. What's going on? So many people surrounding the Marquis, are you trying to bully my beloved minister? Disperse, disperse, everyone disperse for me. Hearing this, Qingxiu nearly vomited in disgust. So, you play both the good guy and the bad guy? Truly a double-faced green tea. Qingxiu tilted his head, completely puzzled, and asked, Your Majesty, what kind of act is this? I really don't understand. He truly couldn't make sense of Li Er's mysterious behavior. Li Er dismounted, walked up to Marquis Qing as if no one else were present, and suddenly, with an excited face, grabbed Qingxiu's hand. Looking at him sincerely, he said, Marquis, I was wrong. I know I was wrong. Come back. Will you come back with me? Qingxiu suddenly shivered, his rear tightening, and goosebumps covering his whole body. All around, whether soldiers guarding the gate or ordinary commoners, everyone was dumbfounded, gulping hard. What? The emperor personally admitting fault and, in a pleading tone, asking the Marquis who pacifies the nation to return? A few old men who had wanted to see the emperor's face were completely stunned. This was the emperor's unmatched demeanor? Good heavens, this wasn't unmatched demeanor, this was clearly the affection of the Dragon Yang type. The scene was painfully awkward to behold. Qingxiu's face burned hot, he felt an unprecedented sense of humiliation. He tried hard to pull his hand back, his mouth twitching as he said, Your Majesty, let go, quickly let go. So many people are watching. If you're not embarrassed, I still am. Li Er only held tighter, then looked around before shaking his head. No. Even if I die, I won't let go, unless you promise me you won't leave Chang'an. Qingxiu was puzzled. Strange, how did Li Er know I was planning to leave Chang'an? He had just set out, and Li Er had come chasing after him. This was too odd. Qingxiu smiled bitterly. Your Majesty, I'm only going to Sanha village to stay one night. Tomorrow morning I'll be with General Wei to muster troops and set up camp. My home is in Sanha village, surely you wouldn't forbid me from going home. Li Er said resentfully. Nonsense. Don't try to deceive me. Do you think I don't know what's in your heart? I already know I was wrong. Marquis, for the sake of all these people watching us, give me some face. Come back with me, return to the Marquis's residence. Do whatever you want, I'll agree to anything. Qingxiu shivered, pulling his hand free with force, taking a step back and swallowing nervously. Pervert, Li Er is definitely a pervert. Do whatever I want? Agree to anything? What does that even mean? The surrounding people all looked at the two of them with strange eyes. To prevent the situation from escalating further, and to stop Li Er from pulling any more stunts, Qingxiu forced a bitter smile and said, Your Majesty, don't be like this. So many people are watching. I'll go home, all right? Li Er relaxed, his eyes still holding a hint of grievance. At this time, Cheng Yaojin finally arrived. He dismounted and hurried over in a few big steps, looking Qingxiu up and down before slapping him on the shoulder and saying in puzzlement, What's with you, kid? Perfectly fine, yet suddenly you decide to leave Chang'an, leave the Tang? If you leave, won't my niece end up a living widow again? Qingxiu was dumbfounded, then suddenly startled and shocked. He had just formed the thought of leaving Chang'an to live in seclusion, and Cheng Yaojin already knew? What's going on? Qingxiu couldn't help but ask. How did you know I was leaving Chang'an? I haven't told anyone. Li Er's expression said, just as I thought. Cheng Yaojin said. Of course His Majesty told me. To chase you, His Majesty's backside is almost rubbed raw. And you, suddenly deciding to leave without a word? Really? Qingxiu said helplessly. I'd better return to my residence. We can't just keep standing here being stared at. Your Majesty can order the gate open so my wives can go to Sanha village first. No. Li Er shook his head. Absolutely not. If we go back, we all go back together. Come, Marquis, mount up. Li Er even took the initiative to lead the horse toward Qingxiu, which startled him. Your Majesty, that won't do, this is your horse. How can I ride it? I'll just take the carriage. Li Er said firmly. No. You must mount. In ancient times, King Wen of Zhou pulled Jiang Ziya's carriage for 8 steps, and the Zhou dynasty ruled for 800 years. If King Wen could pull Jiang Ziya's carriage, then today I will lead the horse and hold the stirrup for you. From here to your residence is 3 li, the Tang's national fortune will last at least several thousand or tens of thousands of years. Come now, Marquis, mount the horse. Qingxiu's mouth twitched nonstop. Li Er's gone mad. Completely mad. He really couldn't understand what kind of ridiculous act this was. Even Cheng Yaojin secretly clicked his tongue. Other than the retired Emperor Li Yuan, probably no one but this young man could get Li Er to personally hold his stirrup. Such an honor. After today, this man would surely be famous across the land, untouchable. Cheng Yaojin was green with envy. The commoners' hearts were in an uproar. Good heavens, this was the emperor, the true ruler of the Tang, personally leading the Marquis's horse and holding the stirrup? What an honor. Qingxiu forced a bitter smile. Your Majesty, please don't. You'll destroy me with such favor. I'll just take the carriage. Li Er's face turned stern. No. If you don't mount, I'll lie down right here and act as your mounting stool. I won't get up until you're in the saddle. Qingxiu was truly embarrassed now. Then, a gentle voice came from behind. Husband, you'd better mount. Don't make things difficult for His Majesty. Whatever needs to be discussed, we can do it at home, this isn't the place to talk. Su Xiaochun, heavily pregnant, walked over. Behind her followed several breathtakingly beautiful concubines, each one a peerless beauty. So many beauties appearing together made the commoners' eyes go wide. Qingxiu couldn't control where they looked, but he didn't want his wives and concubines to become the object of other men's fantasies. So he gritted his teeth, mounted the horse, and told Su Xiaochun and the others. You get in the carriage too. We'll return to the residence first. Li Er showed a contented smile. Thus unfolded a rare scene, Li Er leading the horse in front, Qingxiu riding, dozens of guards surrounding them, and thousands of commoners following along, their numbers growing, like a public parade. Li Er waved over a guard, who dismounted and trotted over. In a low voice, Li Er said, Don't just focus on the road, tell everyone to shout. The guard looked blank. Shout what? Shout, the Marquis who pacifies the nation carries the national fortune. In ancient times King Wen pulled the carriage for 8 steps and ruled for 800 years. Now, the Tang Emperor Li Shimin personally leads the horse and holds the stirrup for 10,000 steps, may the Tang endure for all ages. The guard was stunned, and his eyes showed undisguised disdain. Hearing this, Qingxiu nearly fell off his horse. Li Er, you're still this shameless. What was Li Er trying to do? But soon, Qingxiu guessed Li Er's intention. He must be trying to create an image for himself as someone who respects and honors worthy men. Moments later, dozens of imperial guards began shouting the slogan in unison. The marquis who pacifies the nation carries the national fortune. In ancient times, King Wen pulled a carriage for 800 steps and held the realm for 800 years. Now, the Tang Emperor Li Shimin personally leads the horse and holds the stirrup for the marquis who pacifies the nation for 10,000 steps. May the Tang last for all ages. Riding on horseback, Qingxiu felt his face burning. This act was truly something. At the same time, he was also extremely curious. He carried the national fortune? How had he never known he had the national fortune on him? This was just too absurd. Cheng Chumo finally ran all the way to the city gate, only to be shocked beyond words by the sight before him. After carefully listening to the slogan, Cheng Chumo turned right around and headed back. By the time he reached the marquis's residence, Cheng Chumo was already as exhausted as a dead dog, plopping down on the steps and gasping for air. Cui Yuyan hurried forward and asked urgently, "Cousin, why did you come back so quickly? What exactly happened up ahead?" Cheng Chumo, panting heavily, said, "Cousin, guess what I saw?" "What did you see?" Cui Yuyan asked, then turned to the gatekeeper old Lu. "Please, uncle, fetch a bowl of water." "Thank you." You're welcome. Old Lu waved his hand and went to the gatehouse to pour a bowl of cool boiled water, which he brought over. After gulping it down, Cheng Chumo caught his breath and recounted exactly what he had seen and heard. Not only Cui Yuyan, but even the gatekeeper old Lu was stunned. The marquis's residence was not far from the city gate, and soon the procession arrived at its front. Many onlookers had followed along, pointing and talking about the group. Qingxiu quickly jumped down from his horse, but Li Er said with a trace of grievance, "Marquis, we haven't even entered your home yet. Why have you gotten down already?" Qingxiu's mouth twitched as he thought to himself, if it weren't because we'd reached home, Li Er might lead the horse until nightfall. The women in the carriage entered the residence. As Su Xiaochun passed by Cui Yuyan, a hint of admiration appeared in her eyes. She couldn't help but secretly sigh. A girl from a prominent family truly has excellent bearing. She took the initiative to approach with a smile and asked, "Are you from Qinghe?" Cui Yuyan was startled. She had guessed the identity of Su Xiaochun and the beauties behind her, but had not expected that this pregnant main wife of the marquis would approach her on her own. Cui Yuyan smiled kindly and nodded. "Yes." Su Xiaochun smiled charmingly, taking Cui Yuyan's hand. "We've heard about you and my husband. Since you've come here, it's as if you've come to your own home. From now on, we're all one family. Sister Cui, don't be polite, come inside." The magnanimity of the main wife surprised Cui Yuyan. In her mind, she had still imagined the typical pattern of the main wife bullying concubines. In recent days, whenever she thought about what might happen if the main wife of Qingxiu's household did not welcome her, she had felt uneasy. But now, Cui Yuyan completely relaxed. "Yes, thank you, madam." She smiled in reply and followed Su Xiaochun and the other women into the residence. Li Er saw it all and sighed. "Marquis, you truly have married a virtuous wife." Qingxiu joked with a smile. Compared to the Empress, she's still far behind. "Your Majesty, Uncle Cheng, let's go inside too. Standing at the gate being stared at like this, I feel like a monkey on display." Li Er laughed loudly. Yes, let's talk inside." The group entered the residence, and Qingxiu instructed the servants to brew a pot of tea. Unable to hold back, Qingxiu asked, "Your Majesty, what is going on? Why do you say I carry the national fortune?" Li Er's expression turned displeased. "First, answer me, why do you want to leave Chang'an? I merely asked Li Chunfeng to read your face. As a man, do you need to be so petty?" He grumbled, looking somewhat proud and pouty. "Ah?" Qingxiu was surprised. "Your Majesty, I haven't told anyone about wanting to leave Chang'an. How did you know? Also, although I plan to leave Chang'an and never again take part in the scheming of the court, I never said I would leave right now. I've just been appointed deputy commander for the Guanyi Circuit Army. Surely I should first help repel the Turks before thinking about leaving." As for leaving Chang'an to settle in Sanha village, Qingxiu did not dare to say it. He feared Li Er would feel embarrassed, as Sanha village was only 30 to 40 li from Chang'an, less than an hour by horse. There had to be more to this, otherwise, how could Li Er know he wanted to leave? And to make such a big show of it, even leading the horse and holding the stirrup just to bring him back. Li Er, still displeased, said, "Tell me the truth, why do you want to leave Chang'an? Don't try to brush me off." Qingxiu, who had originally wanted to casually gloss over it, looked a bit awkward. To tell the truth, I feared that Li Chunfeng, that charlatan, would tell your majesty I have the aspect of an emperor, and then, to protect your throne, you would decide to kill me. Li Er snorted angrily. In your eyes, am I really such a petty man? Even if you have the aspect of an emperor, you are still a meritorious minister of the Tang. You have accomplished so much, revitalized the dynasty, improved the people's lives day by day. If you truly had the aspect of an emperor, as long as it benefits the realm and the people, I could just as well pass the throne to you. Qingxiu secretly rolled his eyes. Others might believe such words, but he absolutely would not. Li Er was an emperor who valued power above all, otherwise, he would not have killed brother Qin and his own younger brother, nor forced his father to abdicate. Cheng Yaojin also scolded. And just for this, you want to leave Chang'an? You're judging the heart of a gentleman with a petty man's mind. His Majesty isn't as narrow-minded as you think. At most, Cheng Yaojin added silently in his heart, he's just overly suspicious. Li Er said. You want to know how I knew you were leaving? I'll tell you. Li Chunfeng didn't say you had the aspect of an emperor, he said you were surrounded by a golden dragon of fortune. And that golden dragon is the national fortune of the Tang. Qingxiu's jaw dropped, he looked at Li Er in disbelief. A golden dragon of fortune? What nonsense was this? This was like absurdity's mother opening the door for absurdity, it had reached the peak of absurdity. The corners of his mouth twitched. Did I travel to a cultivation version Tang dynasty? No, that couldn't be right. I must be looking at this the wrong way. I'll have to have a good talk with Li Chunfeng later, and ask how he could possibly see a golden dragon of fortune surrounding me. Li Er continued. I also had Yuan Tiangang do a divination. He calculated that your golden dragon of fortune is the Tang's national fortune. But he said that originally this fortune was connected to the national fortune, yet now it shows signs of running away. So I concluded that the marquis who pacifies the nation, who carries the national fortune, was about to leave Chang'an and the Tang. I immediately set out to chase you, and sure enough, Yuan Tiangang was right, you really were about to run off. Luckily I caught up in time, if I had been a day or two later, you'd probably have vanished with your whole household. As he spoke, Li Er looked relieved. Qingxiu was completely speechless, just as he had been the last time he was this speechless. Empress Zhangsun arrived late and found Ling Er with Qingxiu and Yao Jin, father and son. She breathed a sigh of relief, greeted in the main hall, and went to find Su Xiaochun and the others. Wearing a phoenix robe, Empress Zhangsun entered the tea room in the backyard. Su Xiaochun, Yun Yang, and Zhangsun Pingting immediately stepped forward to greet her. Zhangsun Pingting affectionately held Empress Zhangsun's arm and said coquettishly, Aunt, what brings you here? We haven't seen each other for some time, right? The Empress sighed, yes, it's been a while, at least 2 months. It's just like the saying, a married daughter is like water spilled out. Once you have your husband's home, you forget your aunt from your mother's side. You haven't visited even once for so long, truly, when a girl grows up, she can't be kept. Zhang Sunpingting's face flushed from the scolding, and she said playfully, look at what you're saying, Aunt. I've always missed you. I was planning to visit you in a couple of days, but you beat me to it. The Empress said crossly, visit me in a couple of days? You'll be whisked away by that boy Marquis Qin, how will you visit me then? Su Xiaochun chuckled at the side, Your Majesty doesn't know, my husband just said we'd go stay in Sanha village for a while. He didn't say we wouldn't come back. Just look at His Majesty, he's made such a big fuss that the whole city knows. The Empress froze in surprise and asked, so you're just going to Sanha village for a few days? Yes, Su Xiaochun said with a smile. My husband said the Turkic army is coming, and you never know, if the Tang army is defeated and the Turks enter Chang'an, what then? Sanha village is safer. The Empress frowned, don't talk nonsense. We will win this battle. The Tang army will not be defeated. Please have some tea, Your Majesty. Yunyang poured a cup of tea and handed it over. The Empress took a sip, looked at Ling Yuqing and Lu Yunyun, then glanced at Cui Yuran, and asked puzzled, and these 3 young ladies are? Ling Yuqing quickly stood up and saluted, greetings, Your Majesty. I am Ling Yuqing, my husband's concubine. Lu Yunyun followed suit, greetings, Your Majesty. I am Lu Yunyun, also my husband's concubine. Cui Yuran blushed and stammered, I am Cui Yuran. Aunt, I am the second lady of the Yao family. The Empress was stunned, pointing at the 3 in disbelief, this, in the blink of an eye, your husband has gained 3 more concubines? Su Xiaochun explained with a smile, Your Majesty, they were with him before Xiangqing. We kept quiet to avoid displeasing His Majesty and you. As for her, she's from the Cui family of Qinghe, niece of the Yao family's second lady, and also my husband's unwed concubine. The Empress held her forehead and said helplessly, Heavens. I thought Xiangqing was the 5th wife, but it turns out she's the 7th. This Marquis Qing hides beauties without even telling me, really. I'll have His Majesty lecture him later. Su Xiaochun sighed, Your Majesty knows what my husband is like. We've long gotten used to it. Indeed, Su Xiaochun had found it tiresome. Every so often, rumors would surface about her husband and some beauty, and they always turned out true. During her stay at the Qing residence, she also noticed that the Turkic princess Ashina Yu looked at her husband with a faintly resentful gaze, the kind of gaze Su Xiaochun knew well from the days when her husband stayed away from home for several days. She recognized it instantly. Ashina Yu's look was exactly like hers back then, lonely and frustrated. If those two hadn't been involved, she wouldn't believe it even if beaten. Zhang Sun Wugo suddenly recalled ordering that man to make her sexy garter stockings and blushed, saying, You can't indulge him like this, letting him develop a habit of chasing women and bringing home a concubine every so often. That's outrageous. Su Xiaochun smiled wryly, Easy for you to say, Your Majesty. Men having 3 wives and 4 concubines is normal. Besides, we women can't keep pointing fingers at our husband, over time, he'd get annoyed. Zhang Sun Wugo scanned the room with a smile and said, It's simple, depends on how you behave from now on. We? Zhang Sun Pingting asked in confusion. What does this have to do with us? Ling Yuqing and Lu Yunyun seemed to guess something, exchanged glances, and fell into thought, a blush on their faces. Li Yuchan was still confused, Yes, what does this have to do with us? Zhang Sun Wugo held her forehead, exasperated, Heavens. You still don't get it? No wonder your husband keeps seeking fun outside. Aside from Ling Yuqing and Lu Yunyun, everyone, including Su Xiaochun, was clueless. Zhang Sun Wugo glanced at the door, beckoned the young women over, and whispered, Your husband finds women outside because you aren't satisfying him. At night, take turns and serve him well, wear him out a bit. In a few days, he won't have the energy to look elsewhere. Aunt, you. Zhang Sun Pingting's face turned crimson. The others were also embarrassed. Cui Yuran, who am I? Where am I? Is this the sort of scandalous talk a young widow like me should be hearing? Su Xiaochun blushed, frowning tightly, I think Her Majesty is right. Looks like I was wrong. I even thought recently of letting my husband take turns drawing lots to decide who sleeps with him, to keep him healthy. But now I see I was encouraging bad habits. From today on, no more drawing lots. You all. Su Xiaochun gathered Yunyang, Zhang Sun Pingting, Ling Yuqing, Lu Yunyun, and Li Yuchan and whispered, Starting tonight, all of you will accompany him, don't hold back. Wear him out, understand? Everyone was blushing, glancing at each other before lowering their heads in shame. Su Xiaochun patted her pregnant belly, grumbling, If I weren't expecting, I'd join too. Zhang Sun Wugo held her forehead and said with a bitter smile, Xiaochun, that's making it worse, this isn't just wearing him out, it's outright debauchery. You can take turns, like a relay battle. This can be a relay battle too? Cheng Yaojin had originally planned to have lunch here and had no intention of leaving at noon. Qingxiu pretended to try to keep Ling Yan and Empress Zhangsun to stay, but unexpectedly, the couple were as thick-skinned as a city wall. Without even polite refusals, they directly intended to freeload a meal. Qingxiu also didn't forget the newlywed Princess Xiangqing, Ling Lizhu, who had just spent her bridal chamber night yesterday. He sent someone to the prince consort's residence to bring her over for the meal. Soon, Princess Xiangqing arrived at the Qing residence in a carriage, and surprisingly, Yan Yushi got out with her. Ling Yan was not unfamiliar with Yan Yushi. Last time, during the assassination attempt on Qingxiu at Sujiang Pool, Ling Yan had met her and even played a role in matchmaking her with Qingxiu. But Zhang Sun Wugo, Su Xiaochun, and the others had never met Yan Yushi before and didn't know who she was. Today, Ling Lizhu wore a white dress, her waist slender enough to wrap one's hands around, the belt fluttering, and she had regained her former cold and untouchable temperament, like the unworldly beauty little dragon girl from the Return of the Condor Heroes. Yan Yushi wore a light green strapless dress, but her inner lining extended above the collarbone. Though this made the outfit look somewhat mismatched, it depended on who wore it. On her, it carried a unique charm. Qingxiu naturally knew why she dressed this way, it was to cover the wound below her left collarbone. The wound had only just healed and had left a permanent scar. Tang women's dresses were usually strapless, similar to later low-cut gowns. For some more well-endowed middle-aged beauties, there would even be a deep, dark cleavage. For example, Empress Zhangsun herself was like that. Because of this, Qingxiu had often admired the Wendy Empress's superb figure. When Yan Yushi got out of the carriage with Princess Xiangqing, everyone thought she was her maid. Only Cui Yuran smiled at Yan Yushi as a greeting. They had met just yesterday and could be considered acquaintances. Zhang Sun Wugo asked doubtfully, Xiangqing, why did you change maids? Where's little Cherry? Didn't she come with you? Yan Yushi froze at this, giving Princess Xiangqing a strange look. Standing next to her, do I really look like a maid? Princess Xiangqing smiled and explained, Mother, she's not a maid, she's a daughter of the Yan family, named Yan Yushi, now my close friend. As for Cherry, she's unwell, so I let her rest at the prince consort's residence. Zhang Sun Wugo nodded in realization, I see. Yan Yushi gave a proper bow. Commoner woman greets your majesty the empress, greets Marquis Qing, and greets the ladies. Her dignified manners naturally won everyone's favor. Ling Yan simply smiled and nodded, pointing to the protruding inner lining at Yan Yushi's chest and reminding her, straighten your appearance properly, and stay for lunch later. Yan Yushi covered the protruding inner lining with some difficulty. It's not that I don't care about my appearance, it's just hard to. Ling Yan waved a hand. Your Majesty, don't mind it, Miss Yan has an injury here. She's dressed like this to cover it. The Empress suddenly understood, but then frowned, oh, so that's it? Wait, no. How does His Majesty know about Miss Yan's injury? Could it be that Li'er and she? She secretly glanced at Li'er, seemingly already considering when to have this Miss Yan enter the palace as a Chiron, talent. Wu Meinyang, the correct way to introduce a Chiron. Li'er rolled his eyes at the Empress's look. Empress, what are you imagining? Miss Yan was injured because she saved Xiangqing and Marquis Qing at Sujiang Pool and took an arrow to the chest. The Empress looked slightly embarrassed. Princess Xiangqing added, yes, Mother, you don't know how brave Shishir was. Facing over a dozen assassins, she risked her life to save me and the prince consort. If it weren't for her, we might have died at Sujiang Pool. The Empress nodded. Then we must thank Miss Yan properly. Being praised like this, Yan Yushi blushed deeply. Su Xiaochun asked in surprise, husband was assassinated? When did this happen? Why didn't I know? Qingxiu brushed it off, you were all in Sanha village at the time. Too many people were involved, and His Majesty ordered a gag, so of course you didn't know. Su Xiaochun complained, and you didn't even tell me when you came home. Qingxiu smiled, I was unharmed, so I didn't tell you. Su Xiaochun muttered, from now on, whatever happens, husband must tell me. I'm your wife, if everyone knows except me, it makes me seem very unfit for the role. I understand, don't worry, never again. Since Su Xiaochun was pregnant and carrying her belly all day was hard work, Qingxiu pampered her in every possible way, always giving in when he could. Su Xiaochun went over to Yan Yushi and bowed slightly. Thank you, Miss Yan, for saving my husband. Yan Yushi quickly waved her hands. It's nothing, it's my duty. If it happened again, I'd do the same. Su Xiaochun was very moved, her gaze lingering slightly longer on the area Yan Yushi kept covered. Then it was time to eat. The women sat at one table, the men at another. The men talked about military and state affairs, while the women's table naturally talked about men. Su Xiaochun seemed distracted for the whole meal. She wasn't one to hide her thoughts, so it was clear to everyone that something was on her mind. Zhang Sun Wugo asked with concern, Xiaochun, why are you downcast? Being pregnant, you should keep a cheerful mood. If you have worries, speak up, the palace has been through it all, and my advice might help you. Su Xiaochun gave a bitter smile and glanced at Yan Yushi before speaking reluctantly, Miss Yan took an arrow to save my husband, she'll probably have quite a scar. I'm thinking, how can we repay such a great kindness? Surely a simple, thank you isn't enough. Yes, Princess Xiangqing smiled, then her eyes gleamed slyly. Sister, because she saved your husband, she now has such a big scar on her chest, it'll be hard for her to marry. To show our gratitude, let's help her find a husband who won't mind her scar. Yan Yushi blushed and looked at Li Lizhu in confusion. Didn't we agree that after you got married, I'd come as a concubine? Why does this sound like you're marrying me off to someone else? For some reason, Yan Yushi suddenly felt uneasy. Find her an ideal husband? Su Xiaochun looked in surprise at Princess Xiangqing and Yan Yushi, but Yan Yushi quickly shook her head. I really don't want to get married now. As for finding an ideal husband, forget it. Madam has already thanked me, so let's count this lunch as my thank you gift. What a joke, she had risked her life and finally secured a marriage prospect. She couldn't let Princess Xiangqing ruin it with just a few words. So Yan Yushi's gaze toward Princess Xiangqing was full of quiet resentment. Hearing this, Princess Xiangqing rolled her eyes. What a silly, naive girl, doesn't know how to take the opportunity to climb up. An ideal husband, Su Xiaochun murmured, frowning. In our Sanha village, those of marriageable age are mostly farmers' sons. I suppose Miss Yan may not think much of them. This is really a bit of a problem. Yan Yushi quickly said in embarrassment, Madam Qing, really, there's no need. But Zhang Sunpingting's eyes lit up. She giggled, my brother isn't married yet. Why doesn't Miss Yan become my sister-in-law? My brother may be a bit unruly at times, but he's somewhat talented, and he's not bad-looking, he's rather handsome. Su Xiaochun's face brightened. Right. How did I not think of Pingting's older brother? Even if you don't like him, there's still Cheng Chumo from Uncle Cheng's family in the front courtyard. Surely one of them could be the ideal husband for you. Princess Xiangqing was a little dumbfounded. She had originally planned to give a little push so Su Xiaochun and the others would realize that the Yan family's legitimate daughter would one day become someone's concubine, so they would be mentally prepared. Unexpectedly, it had completely backfired. Yan Yushur quickly stood up, visibly agitated. I don't want an ideal husband. I really don't want to get married yet. How could Empress Zhongsun be anything but perceptive? Seeing her reject two fine young men so firmly, and recalling the misunderstanding at the midsummer poetry gathering, along with the life-saving debt at Furong Gardens Tsujiang Pool, she could guess that this Yan family daughter already had someone in her heart. And that person was very likely her own son-in-law. She was about to speak up to stop things, when Ling Lizhu stood and smiled. Sister, I was only joking earlier, why take it so seriously? Besides, His Majesty has already promised Miss Yan a marriage. The Empress froze. His Majesty? Why is he getting involved in this? Su Xiaochun was surprised. His Majesty promised a marriage? Miss Yan, you've been given such an honor? Tisk, tisk, Zhongsun Pingting exclaimed. I didn't expect Sister Yan to receive a royal marriage decree. I wonder which talented young man will marry such a beautiful, educated lady as Miss Yan. Before Yan Yushur could speak, Ling Lizhu covered her mouth and smiled. Tell me, what does a royal marriage decree from His Majesty mean? What does it mean? What else could it mean? It must be the greatest honor, Zhongsun Pingting quickly agreed. Li Yuchan thought for a moment and interjected, few people in the world can receive a royal marriage decree. It's a great imperial favor. Miss Yan's intended husband must be someone of extraordinary talent and distinction. Princess Xiangqing glanced at the now stunned Yan Yushur and smiled again. Then what if His Majesty grants the marriage, but the man's family doesn't agree, what would happen? Zhongsun Pingting grew indignant. That would be sheer ingratitude. Miss Yan is a beauty of national renown, born into a scholarly family, the legitimate daughter of the Yan household. She's more than qualified to be a princess consort, how could the man's family possibly refuse? Li Yuchan looked at Yan Yushur with a hint of sympathy. Even the blunt Yunyang spoke up. If His Majesty grants a marriage and the man's family refuses, isn't that defying an imperial order? That's rebellion against the throne, it should be punished. Only Su Xiaochun began to feel a bad premonition. Cui Yuran, who already knew the truth, stared in shock at the princess, thinking, this is the princess, and she's also a wife, and she's scheming to push another woman toward her husband? Only Li Yuqing and Lu Yunyun, being older and sharper-minded, were watching everyone's expressions closely. The two exchanged a glance. Lu Yunyun covered her forehead with a bitter smile and shook her head slightly. This husband's wives and concubines really were too simple-minded. Li Yuqing stopped pretending. She narrowed her eyes and said slyly, if the man's family doesn't agree to the marriage, why not just have our husband take her as a secondary wife? The words shocked everyone. Yunyang, Zhongsun Pingting, and the others all looked angry. Sister Qing, no, Aunt Qing. How could you say that? Zhongsun Pingting shouted. Husband already has so many concubines, and you still want to add another? Li Yuchan pouted. Exactly. Even though our names differ by only one character, we're both from the Yu generation. Don't expect me to call you Aunt Qing, I'll call you Sister Qing at best, and that's already showing you respect. Everyone knew that Zhongsun Pingting's Aunt Qing was mocking Li Yuqing's age. Li Yuchan's words hit right where Li Yuqing was weakest. Li Yuqing looked at her earnestly and said excitedly, thank you. Li Yuchan tilted her head, confused. Did I not say it harshly enough? At this moment, Su Xiaochun frowned. Enough, stop bickering. And you too? She looked at Princess Xiangqing and Yan Yushur. Stop acting. I already figured it out. Princess, when you brought this up, hadn't you already planned it? Princess Xiangqing looked guilty. What would I have planned? Su Xiaochun said angrily, don't play dumb. You wanted to take this opportunity to let us all know that His Majesty's promised marriage to Miss Yan is actually to our husband, right? Princess Xiangqing awkwardly scratched the back of her head. Everyone, seeing this scene, gradually understood, so there was a trap here. Zhongsun Pingting shouted angrily, Li Lizhu, I treated you as my cousin, and you tricked me? Do we even count as relatives anymore? Who sets up their own cousin like this? In fact, the two of them were barely related. Their closeness came from Zhongsun Pingting being the Empress's niece, often entering the palace since childhood, and being the same age as Princess Xiangqing. they had grown up together as close friends. Li Yuchan said indignantly, "So, you just got married and already side with outsiders? You went in such a big circle, and it was all for this? Anyway, I'm just a concubine, I don't care. I'm full, so I'll go make some tea for everyone." With that, Li Yuchan left the table and disappeared. She had been raised as the daughter of a wealthy family and knew well how dangerous such infighting could be. Since she had little say in the Qing household anyway, she simply found an excuse to slip away. But the others did not have Li Yuchan's level of awareness. Yunyang said with a bitter face, "Even if I don't agree to this marriage, it won't work. That would be the crime of defying imperial authority. But even if I agree, it's no use anyway. I can't make the decisions in the household, hee." After she finished, Yunyang couldn't help but giggle. After being a small concubine for Qingxiu for so long, Yunyang's originally reserved personality had improved. She had become more lively and cheerful. More importantly, under the shared influence of everyone, Yunyang had gradually become bolder. Especially in bed, whatever Qingxiu asked her to do, she could go one step further. For example, if he asked her to bite, she could bite in different ways until you trembled, just say whether it hurt or not, and that would be the end of it. "Yunyang, you've really been spoiled." Su Xiaochun gave Yunyang a pinch in annoyance, though she didn't dare use much force. Li Yuqing also spread her hands helplessly and said with some innocence, "I saw this coming long ago, that's why I said what I did. Yet you all are blaming me now." Yan Yushi, the one involved, said apologetically, "I've made things difficult for the ladies. At the time, I acted on impulse to save someone, without thinking this far ahead. If I've caused trouble for the ladies, then just pretend this never happened." After speaking, Yan Yushi stood and gave a bow, her eyes reddening as she prepared to leave. "Am I destined to have no fate with Qingxiu?" Princess Xiangqing asked urgently, "Why are you leaving?" Su Xiaochun also stood up, grabbed Yan Yushi, and said with a complicated expression, "Please wait, Miss Yan. We don't mean to reject you, it's just that this happened suddenly, so we all need some time to accept you." Yan Yushi's delicate body trembled, and she asked blankly, What do you mean?" Princess Xiangqing grinned. "What else could it mean? It means they've accepted you." Yan Yushi widened her eyes, somewhat in disbelief. "They've accepted me? Just now they were acting like it was the end of the world." Su Xiaochun sighed helplessly. "You were injured because of my husband. By reason, my husband should be responsible for you, otherwise, he'd seem too heartless. We acted poorly just now because we couldn't accept it right away." Yan Yushi insisted, "Madam Qing, it's fine. If I've truly made everyone unhappy, then from now on I simply won't interact with Qingxiu." Su Xiaochun released her hand and said to Ling Lizhu, "She's your responsibility now. I'm tired and will go rest." Su Xiaochun turned and went to her room. Yunyang hesitated, then followed. After they went inside, they never came out again. Li Yuqing and Lu Yunyun also found excuses to leave, and Empress Zhangsun and Zhangsun Pingting went to the front courtyard. At the dining table, only Xiangqing, Yan Yushi, and Cui Yuran remained. Looking at the now empty surroundings, Yan Yushi said nervously, "Princess, it seems, they don't like me much. Maybe we should forget it. At worst, I just won't marry in this lifetime." Ling Lizhu flicked her forehead and said sternly, "What nonsense? Big Sis already said, they just need time to get used to it. No wonder, what woman can easily accept her husband's wives and concubines being so many? I'm the same. If it were you, you'd feel the same way. If you hadn't saved me, I wouldn't bother helping you. Who wants to share their man with others?" She rolled her eyes, then glanced at Cui Yuran and continued, "They accepted Miss Cui so quickly, it makes no sense they wouldn't accept you. This is just the usual process. Don't take it to heart, after spending some time together, you'll find they're all easy to get along with. Come on, I'll take you back to the Yen residence." Then Ling Lizhu took Yan Yushi away. Cui Yuran, finding herself alone, felt bored and wandered toward the front courtyard. Passing by the dining hall, she overheard her uncle Chang Yaojin speaking with someone inside. "Chang Yaojin, nephew, when it comes to marriage, the sooner the better. I think we should find a time soon for my wife's niece to marry into your household. She's been married once already, so she won't care about the formalities, keep it simple. Once her father settles in Chang'an, just arrange a carriage to bring her over." Outside, Cui Yuran blushed and also felt a little angry. What did he mean, keep it simple and just bring her over in a carriage? She wanted to rush in and show her eloquence, but thinking about it, she realized Chang Yaojin was right. She had been married once already, so there was no need for all those worldly rituals. Marriage was just a formality anyway. "Qingxiu, then I'll follow Uncle Chang's suggestion. Do you know when Miss Chui's parents will arrive in Chang'an?" "Chang Yaojin, I got a letter this morning, they'll be here in at most 5 days. That's why I came today." Li Er interrupted, 5 days might not work, the Turkic army of 100,000 is invading. If battle breaks out, it won't be over in 5 days. Cheng Yaojin, then we'll wait until the war is over, and I'll come again. That's fine. Then I'll take my leave with Choer. Your Majesty, will you return to the palace with me? Li Er nodded. Yes, I'm a bit tired. I'll go back to the palace with you. Hearing this, Cui Yuran quickly hid. When Cheng Yaojin and the others came out, she casually walked out as if they had met by chance. Qingxiu, seeing this from an all-knowing perspective, couldn't help but smile. With nothing to do that afternoon, Qingxiu took a nap. After dinner, he waited and waited for the most important part of the evening. Once the servants had cleared the table, Qingxiu sipped his tea and smiled. What are we waiting for? Bring out the name plates. The most important part was choosing from the plates. The family sat together, looking at each other. In the end, all eyes turned to Su Xiaochun. In her heart, she sighed, being the woman of the household isn't easy. Clearing her throat, she said, after our discussions, starting today, husband doesn't need to draw plates anymore. Qingxiu was surprised. No more drawing plates? Didn't we agree to use it to help me restrain myself in married life? Giving up already? Everyone's expressions turned odd. Su Xiaochun rolled her eyes. If he restrained himself any further, he'd probably have even more wives and concubines. He had restrained himself for just a few days and already added 2 concubines. If he restrained himself more, what then? No more restraint. Su Xiaochun smiled sweetly. Husband is still young, full of vigor, in the prime of life. He's healthy and strong, there won't be any problem. So starting today, no more drawing plates. You all. She stood, looked around, and pursed her lips. Tonight, whoever wants to serve in the bedchamber can do so, but it definitely won't be me. Qingxiu was stunned. This sudden change left him a bit overwhelmed. That night, since no nameplate was chosen, Qingxiu, in order to take everyone's feelings into account, also didn't decide who would serve him. After everyone dispersed, he returned to his own room, thinking about who might come knocking that night. Zhang Sun Pingting went back to her room, sat on the bed, and murmured to herself, husband is going to war. Who knows when he will return? The battlefield is full of danger, I truly worry for him. No, husband leaves early tomorrow morning. How can I, as his wife, not see him off properly? A blush appeared on Zhang Sun Pingting's cheeks. She picked up an oil lamp and went straight to Qingxiu's room. From his god's eye view, Qingxiu saw it was Zhang Sun Pingting at the door and felt a bit disappointed. Why? The reason was simple, she was too young, and when things reached a certain stage, she would become reserved. Her skills were also average. But soon Qingxiu smiled. Though her skills weren't as good as the others, she was still the freshest and tenderest of them all. Having someone to share the bed with was better than having no one. When Zhang Sun Pingting knocked, Qingxiu simply said, come in. She entered with the oil lamp, locked the door, and in the dim light, her face flushed, looking especially enticing. Husband. She called softly, then walked over, lighting the 2 candles on the bedside table. The room instantly became much brighter. They had been married for a few months now and were like an old married couple, so Zhang Sun Pingting had learned to take the initiative. She took off her shoes, got into bed, and hugged Qingxiu tightly, speaking in a muffled voice, husband, you'll be leading troops tomorrow. Who knows when you'll return? Pingting wants to spend tonight with you, is that all right? She looked up at him, her long eyelashes trembling, her pretty face even more rosy and charming. Qingxiu scratched her small nose and chuckled. Of course. Since none of the others came, tonight you're the lucky one. A shy and happy smile spread across her face, and she leaned up to kiss him. In Su Xiaochun's room, Yunyang finished making the bed and climbed into sleep. Because Su Xiaochun was pregnant, she couldn't be alone at night, so Yunyang had been sleeping with her. Seeing Yunyang's quick movements, Su Xiaochun frowned. Yunyang, you're fast tonight. Yunyang smiled. It's getting cooler, so I'm warming the bedding for you first. After the autumn equinox, the weather grew colder. The nights were now around 17 or 18 degrees, still quite comfortable. Yunyang's thoughtfulness moved Su Xiaochun. She took out 2 garter stockings, one black, one red, from the wardrobe and tossed them over. I appreciate your kindness, but husband leaves for the military camp early tomorrow and who knows when he'll be back. It's not proper for me to serve him like this with my big belly. So, Yunyang, take these 2 garters and go to husband tonight. I'll have Chuanxiu stay with me. Chuanxiu was a 14-year-old maid in the household, careful, lively, and Su Xiaochun's personal servant. Yunyang blushed and hesitated. But, if I go to master tonight, will the others think I'm competing for favor? Maybe I shouldn't. There will be plenty of chances when he returns. Su Xiaochun pulled Yunyang out of bed, annoyed. We've lived together for so long, you know they aren't petty. Even if someone goes to husband tonight, the others, hearing sounds from his room, will just give up. Since it's just the first night, they haven't gone yet, you hurry along. I? Before Yunyang could finish, Su Xiaochun shoved her out the door, stuffed the 2 garters into her arms, and slammed the door shut, locking it. Yunyang gave a bitter smile, her face full of shyness. Not wanting to be seen, she hurried toward Qingxiu's bedroom. Qingxiu, in the middle of a battle of tongues, saw Yunyang approaching through his god's eye view and released his lips. Zhang Sun Pingting, already full of watery charm, whispered, "Why did you stop, husband?" Qingxiu took a deep breath and chuckled. "You're too fierce, I can't even breathe when you kiss me." She blushed with a trace of guilt. "Husband, am I very clumsy?" "Clumsy, yes, but diligence makes up for clumsiness. You should learn from your sister Yunyang in the future." Pingting nodded shyly. "Yes, I will, husband." Just as she was about to kiss him again, there was a knock at the door. Pingting instantly perked up, sat up, and muttered, "Who is it now? How shameless. I don't care, husband is mine tonight. Send her away and make her go to bed." Qingxiu whispered, "That's not nice. Didn't I tell you before, I hate it when women compete for favor. Pingting, hide in the wardrobe for now. I'll see who it is and send them away before calling you out." "All right then." Pingting, without thinking too much, pouted, put on her shoes, and hid in the wardrobe. Qingxiu smirked and called out, "Come in." The door pushed but didn't open. From outside came Yunyang's gentle voice, "Master, it's me, Yunyang. Why did you lock the door?" "Wait, I'll open it for you." Qingxiu got up, opened the door, and pulled her inside. Yunyang's face was shy, and she held a black and a red garment in her arms. Qingxiu instantly perked up. Yunyang clearly knew what to do better than Pingting, she even brought garter stockings. Pingting would never think of that. She would have to learn from Yunyang later. "Master," Yunyang said softly, "Mistress sent me. She locked her door, and I couldn't get in. Please, please take me in." Her watery eyes looked at him pitifully, making her seem utterly delicate. Qingxiu laughed. "Since she locked the door, I can't exactly turn you away. Get into bed." Yunyang lowered her head shyly, climbed into bed with the black and red garters. In the wardrobe, Zhang Sun Pingting bit her lip in frustration. "Weren't you supposed to send her away? Why did husband keep her?" Hearing the sounds outside, she was speechless. Meanwhile, Li Yuchan had returned to her own room, ordered 2 basins of hot water, and quickly washed up. Once dressed neatly, her face flushed red, she headed straight for Qingxiu's room. In the wardrobe, Zhang Sun Pingting ground her teeth as she listened to Yunyang's dreamy, murmuring tone, cursing her as shameless. She was about to push open the wardrobe and step out when another knock came at the door. Yunyang, who had been completely focused and deeply involved, sat up like a startled bird, her face flushed. "Master, someone's knocking." "I heard." "What do we do?" Yunyang asked nervously, looking to Qingxiu for help. She was good in every way, except she had no decisiveness. Qingxiu pointed to the other wardrobe where bedding was kept and said in a low voice, "Go hide in that wardrobe. I'll see who it is, and when they leave, I'll call you out." Yunyang, even less quick-witted than Zhang Sun Pingting, immediately darted into the bedding wardrobe to wait quietly. "Who is it?" Qingxiu asked after a pause. From outside came a slightly trembling voice, "Husband, it's me, I'm Yuchan. Are you asleep? Wait a moment." Qingxiu quickly went and opened the door for Ling Yuchan. His heart was nearly bursting with glee. He had thought it would be 2 birds with 1 stone, yet here it was turning into plum blossoms in 3 rounds. He pulled Ling Yuchan inside, inhaling a delicate fragrance that made him praise, so fragrant." Ling Yuchan shyly lowered her head, a bit bashful. "Does husband like it?" I like it." Ling Yuchan wrapped her arms around him and whispered, "Husband will soon go to war. Tonight, Yuchan comes to serve you, to see you off. Please, please be gentle." Then she leaned up and kissed him. "Well now, not even on the bed yet and already this direct?" Qingxiu simply scooped her up in a princess carry. In the wardrobe, Zhang Sun Pingting was fuming. This little fox Ling Yuchan, who always seemed so virtuous and proper, was acting like a different person now. And husband, wasn't he supposed to send Yunyang away and let her come out? Not only had he not sent Yunyang away, he'd kept Ling Yuchan too. She was about to storm out and start a fight, but then an idea came to her, and her eyes lit up. She muttered, "Humph, I'll wait until you're just getting started, then I'll come out and ruin it for you." In the other wardrobe, Yunyang was on the verge of tears. Wasn't he supposed to send her away? Why had he kept her? Did husband not want her to serve him tonight after all? Fine, she'd just sleep in the wardrobe tonight. It wasn't a bad option, the wardrobe was big enough for her to lie down comfortably. Princess Xiangqing, meanwhile, was far more particular. In her room, she had a large wooden tub filled with fresh seasonal petals. She bathed herself carefully, then wrapped herself in a thin, white, silk robe embroidered with lotus flowers, took a lantern, and headed for Qingxiu's room. Ling Lizhu blushed slightly when she saw Qingxiu's room still lit. Confirming he wasn't asleep yet, she paused at the window. Hearing no sounds from inside, she felt a surge of happiness. Good, no one's here yet, she murmured, then went and knocked on the door. Qingxiu was dumbfounded. What was going on tonight? Was he fated for peach blossoms? No, this wasn't good fortune, this was a peach blossom calamity. Hearing the knock, Ling Yuqian panicked. She pushed Qingxiu away and hurriedly straightened her clothes, asking anxiously, "Husband, someone's here, what should we do?" She had yet to grasp the meaning of 3 people together and I can learn from them, so the idea of someone coming at such a moment naturally startled her. Qingxiu's mouth twitched. He pointed to the wardrobe. "Go hide in there. When they leave, I'll call you out." All right. Ling Yuqian hurried off the bed and opened the wardrobe, only to be stunned when she saw Zhang Sun Pingting inside. Zhang Sun Pingting's eyes were wide, glaring fiercely at Ling Yuqian, her hands blocking the space inside as if to keep her out. Ling Yuqian pointed at Zhang Sun Pingting and looked urgently at Qingxiu with a pleading expression. Qingxiu grinned, walked over, and simply shoved Ling Yuqian into the wardrobe. Then he went to open the door. At the doorway stood the princess, her face tender and pink, her gaze soft and flowing. There was little shyness, only deep affection as she looked at Qingxiu. Hugging her shoulders, she said in a slightly trembling voice, "Husband, cold." With that, she gave him a pitiful look. Qingxiu pulled her into his arms, shut the door, and scolded, "Why are you wearing something so thin? Who wouldn't be cold like this? Get into bed." Blushing, the princess ran straight to the bed, slipped under the covers, and pulled them over her head. Though she said nothing and made no direct gesture, her meaning was obvious. After a while, with no movement from Qingxiu, she peeked out from under the covers and patted the bed, signaling him to come. Qingxiu's mouth twitched again. He'd thought it was plum blossoms in 3 rounds, turned out it was 4 blessings arriving at once. Fortunately, the bed was big enough, practically the size of a large In's Kong bed, specially made by him. Several such large beds pushed together made the current enormous sleeping space. He climbed in and found the princess wore nothing but the silk robe. Just one pull and it would be paradise. The silk was clearly top quality, surely taken from the palace. Such a robe must have cost at least 80 to 100 taels of silver. The princess murmured softly, "Husband, yesterday was our wedding. I'm still a little unwell. Please be gentle. A genuine case of going into battle injured." "I will," Qingxiu said tenderly. In the wardrobe, Ling Yuqian whispered, "Pingting," from the voice. "I can't tell, who is that?" Pingting, puffing with anger, replied, "Who else? My cousin from the imperial family, Princess Xiangqing." Ling Yuqian panicked. The princess came to serve him? Oh no, we can't get out. Even if we did, we can't openly take the prince consort from her. Are we going to be stuck in here all night? Pingting shook her head. No, if we're willing, husband wouldn't refuse us. That big pig hoof, he planned from the start to keep all of us. All of us? Isn't it just the 3 of us? Right, plus the princess. Pingting rolled her eyes. Who said only us 3? In the other wardrobe with the bedding, there's Yunyang. Ling Yuqian was completely stunned, her mouth agape, she hadn't even imagined there could be this many. From the bed, Princess Xiangqing panted softly, "Husband, why do I hear people talking in the room? Sounds like, in the wardrobe." Silly girl, he'd been planning to surprise her, but she found out instead. What sound? How come I didn't hear anything? Qingxiu pretended to be clueless. He ignored the people inside the cabinet, thinking it would be wonderful to call them all out later when he went into the room with Princess Lingzhu. Prince Xiangqing Lingzhu stretched out her lotus-like arm, pointed at the wardrobe, and frowned. It seems the sound came from this cabinet. The simple-minded her did not think that 2 wardrobes were already stuffed with a circle of "fight the landlord" players. There's no sound. You must have heard wrong. Oh, Ling Lianzhu muttered, maybe I really heard wrong. Prince Lingzhu felt a chill on her body, subconsciously lifted herself up and looked, only to see that her robe had come apart on both sides. Her face turned bright red, and she quickly closed her eyes and resigned herself to fate. Ling Lianzhu was like her name, dazzling like a rare pearl lost in the sea. Her skin was pale and cool, delicate like congealed jade fat, and her beauty was the most outstanding among many wives and concubines. Realizing there was a head resting on her chest, Prince Lingzhu narrowed her eyes, bit her lip, and tried to push it away, but couldn't muster the strength, so she gave up and let him take what he wanted. After returning to her own room, Ling Yuqing also had her servants heat a tub of water. She took off her clothes, poured powder from a small porcelain bottle into it, and then stepped into the bath barrel. After bathing, Ling Yuqing smiled faintly, went to her wardrobe, took out a bright red camisole, put it on, dressed neatly, and headed for Qingxiu's room. Lu Yunyan's process was almost identical to Ling Yuqing's. She also soaked in a powder bath, but instead of a red camisole, she chose a black one with red non-slip thigh straps. There was no doubt that both women had chosen very strategic undergarments. Just as Qingxiu was about to mount his horse, he suddenly stopped, wearing an expression of disbelief. Because Ling Yuqing and Lu Yunyan appeared in his god's eye view. One approached from the left, the other from the right, they were certain to bump into each other. Already unable to stop herself, Princess Lingzhu urgently asked, "Husband, what's wrong?" Nothing." Qingxiu hesitated for a moment, choosing to stall for time. When Lu Yunyan arrived near Qingxiu's room, she immediately saw Ling Yuqing about to knock on the door. A trace of awkwardness flashed across her face, and she turned to leave. Ling Yuqing floated lightly after her. Lu Yunyan shyly said, "I didn't know senior sister would come here tonight. I was inconsiderate. Since you are here, senior sister, please go ahead. I'll go back to rest." Ling Yuqing held her back, smiled faintly, and whispered, "Since we're here, why stop halfway? Let's go together." "Go together?" Lu Yunyan looked troubled. Ling Yuqing snorted, "It's not like we haven't done it together before. Since we already share the same husband, there's no need to hide it. We're both past 30, half-old beauties, no match for those young girls like Pingting and Yuchan. They're still budding flowers, while our prime is almost over. If we can't compete in youth, we can outnumber them. Later, when we're truly old and faded, let Xiener and Xiaoro also warm the bed for husband." Lu Yunyan's mouth dropped open in disbelief. "Senior sister, how can you have such a ridiculous idea?" Li Yuqing sighed, "Junior sister, wasn't it already ridiculous for the two of us to become concubines to the same husband?" Lu Yunyan thought about it and felt it was true, so she gave a bitter smile. Li Yuqing continued, "I'm already in my 30s. I've figured it out, life is like grass in autumn, we only live a few decades, even a long life is less than 100 years. Thinking about it now, I really wasted so much precious time in the first 30 years. While we're still young, we might as well live freely. What do you think?" A trace of emotion appeared on Lu Yunyan's face, and she nodded, "Senior sister, you're right. I've been too sentimental." Li Yuqing hooked her arm and laughed, "Don't waste time. If some young girl gets in before us tonight, we'll both end up guarding an empty room. Let's go, right now." Lu Yunyan stopped being hesitant and followed Li Yuqing to knock on the door. Princess Lingzhu, who was fully engaged in being nibbled on, was startled by the knocking sound. She barely had the strength to push Qingxiu off her. She sat up in panic, "Husband, someone's here. What should we do?" Qingxiu quickly lifted the blanket and urged, "Go, hide inside. I'll see who it is and send her away, then you can come out." Oh. Li Lianzhu never imagined her newlywed husband could have so many schemes. Without thinking, she dove under the covers, only to feel a heavy weight pressing on her. Another layer of blanket was thrown over her, making her short of breath. Back then, without cotton batting, an autumn quilt could weigh 7 or 8 jin, and a winter quilt was even worse, over 10 jin. Sleeping under one could exhaust you to death, or at least make you uncomfortable. Inside the cabinet, Changsun Pingting was already dumbfounded, her face full of disbelief. Li Yuchan said speechlessly, "Why is there another one?" Changsun Pingting angrily said, "Husband used the same trick to fool cousin again. If this keeps up, our whole family will be gathered here." In another cabinet, Yunyang was also stunned. Good grief, another one? Looks like they were destined to spend the night in the cabinet. Just then, Qingxiu's voice came from outside. "Who is it?" He was asking knowingly. From outside came Li Yuqing's charming voice, "Husband, it's me." "And me," Lu Yunyan added. Hearing the voices, Changsun Pingting almost wanted to die. She grumbled, "Two of them? Coming together? That's so shameless." "Yes, really shameless," Li Yuchan whispered, then pitifully asked, "Pingting, what should we do? We can't just hide here all night, right?" Qingxiu smiled, "Wait a moment, I'll open the door right away." He said this, then ran to open the door, full of excitement. Li Yuqing and Lu Yunyan were much more open than the others. When the door opened, they walked straight in. After entering, Li Yuqing hooked her arm around Qingxiu's neck and breathed softly, "Husband, you're going to the battlefield tomorrow. Yunyuan and I came especially to see you off." Then she grabbed Qingxiu's hand and placed it under her skirt, giving him a seductive look. "Does husband like it? Silk stockings?" Qingxiu's heart was pounding. Like it? This was exactly to his taste. Like it? Of course I like it, you know me best, Aunt Qing. Ling Yuqing smiled faintly, her whole body hanging on Qingxiu, and whispered sweetly in his ear, "Since you like it, why not carry me to the bed and enjoy me properly?" Lu Yunyun showed a shocked expression. Well now, so this is the kind of senior sister you are. How had she never noticed her senior sister had such a seductive side? Never mind her husband, even she herself was feeling tempted. What man could possibly resist this? No, I'll try too. After Qingxiu placed her senior sister on the bed, Lu Yunyun bit her lip and said with a soft, longing gaze, "Husband, what about me? Did you forget me?" Ugh, so cheesy. After acting coy, Lu Yunyun herself felt it was corny, goosebumps rising on her skin. Then she lowered her head, her face flushed. Qingxiu had never seen Lu Yunyun act so much like a little woman before. His heart burned hotter, and he quickly walked over, scooped her up by the waist, and tossed her onto the bed as well. Under the blanket, Princess Xiangqing's mind and body were taut with tension, extremely nervous. Oh heavens, didn't he say he would send them away? Why did he toss them onto the bed? She had just felt someone bump right into her. This made Ling Liju's heart jump into her throat. If they discovered she was wrapped up in the blanket in her most bare state, wouldn't she die of embarrassment? Ling Liju didn't even dare to breathe. In the wardrobe, Zhang Sun Pingting said angrily, "Shameless, truly two shameless women. The way they act, they're simply sluts." Ling Yuchan agreed. Yes, worse than sluts. Though their voices were not loud, Ling Yuqing and Lu Yunyun had practiced martial arts since childhood, and their senses were sharp. They immediately heard the sounds from inside the wardrobe. Ling Yuqing and Lu Yunyun looked at each other, then simultaneously glanced at the wardrobe before fixing their eyes on Qingxiu. Ling Yuqing pressed Qingxiu beneath her and smiled seductively. So husband is hiding beauties in a golden house? Which younger sisters are in the wardrobe? Qingxiu leaned close to her ear and whispered, "Pingting and Yuchan, those two little girls. Yunyang is in the other wardrobe over there." Ling Yuqing rolled her eyes at him with charm and said reproachfully, "Since you already have 3 good sisters in your room, why let me and Yunyun in? Husband, you're too bad." Qingxiu chuckled. "If I didn't let you in, how could I gather all 7 Dragon Balls?" Yes, 7 Dragon Balls. With Ling Yuqing and Lu Yunyun, that made 6 people. Add Qingxiu, and it was exactly 7, not the kind you use to summon the dragon, though. Lu Yunyun leaned in and whispered self-mockingly, "I thought it was only the 2 of us. Didn't expect they came earlier than we did." Ling Yuqing smiled faintly. "They're all little girls who've had a taste and want more. Only the princess still guards her virtue. Poor princess, on the second night after her wedding, she's left alone in the empty room. And you, husband, are really something, leaving her to endure loneliness so soon." Lu Yunyun blushed. "Otherwise, how would we have this chance tonight?" "That's true," Ling Yuqing nodded gently. Hearing all this, Ling Liju's face burned with shame. So, in these 2 elder sisters' eyes, she was the purest among her husband's wives and concubines. Yet this purest one had been the first to appear in his bed. Now she absolutely could not come out. If they saw her, she would have no face to live. Qingxiu had a strange look on his face. Without speaking, he pointed at the round lump under the blanket. Ling Yuqing and Lu Yunyun froze, then widened their eyes at it. Meeting their bewildered gazes, Qingxiu nodded with ill intent. They both gave a bitter smile. Qingxiu leaned against the headboard, 1 woman in each arm, and said playfully, "The night is long, beauties are here, how could we waste such good time? My dear Aunt Qing, your husband is coming." Qingxiu lowered his head and kissed her. MMPH. Not long after, Ling Liju's eyes widened. Had her husband forgotten she was here? How could he dare this? Oh heavens, how could this be happening? Just as her ears were full of noise, she suddenly felt a chill in the air. Thus, the princess's hiding place was revealed. Still astride Qingxiu, her face like peach blossoms, Ling Yuqing looked at her and said, "Don't hide, we've known you were here all along. Come, little sister, join your elder sister." The princess froze completely. And so, what was originally a landlord card game turned into a mahjong game. About half an hour later, with Zhang Sun Pingting and Ling Yuchan's appearance, mahjong became the card game upgrade. When Yunyang appeared, it truly became the real-life version of 7 Dragon Balls. Until dawn, Qingxiu looked at his handiwork and nodded in satisfaction. They were all fast asleep. He dressed, went out, made himself something to eat in the kitchen, then went to the armory to put on a Tang-style general's armor. The armor was made of refined steel, sturdy yet light, designed after the Tang general's style. Originally made just for fun, it now had a real use. There were still 1,000 such sets in the Sanha village warehouse, prepared for the guards trained by Lu Yunyun. Knowing Su Xiaochun would be unwilling to let him leave and would cry if he went to say goodbye, Qingxiu didn't look for her. He had Wei Laojiu prepare a horse and prepared to leave the Qing residence for the army camp. In the front courtyard, a graceful figure was pacing. Qingxiu walked over. Ashinayu, why aren't you sleeping? What are you doing here? In fact, he had noticed her long ago. She had come out to the courtyard from her room an hour ago and had been wandering around. Ashinayu's tone was a bit resentful and a bit disdainful. With the racket you made last night, who in the whole residence could sleep? I couldn't, so I came out to clear my head. Qingxiu wasn't embarrassed. He came up behind her and hugged her from the back, his hands touching softness. Ashinayu's body trembled, suddenly feeling weak. Let go of me, she said, blushing, glancing around. Qingxiu teased, was it loud? Not at all. Compared to the noise we made, that was nothing. At those words, Ashinayu recalled their month-long frenzy. Her breath quickened, and she gripped his hands tightly. Why are you wearing armor? Going to war, of course I wear armor. Her heart trembled. She turned sharply. War? With who? The Turks. Your father has brought 200,000 troops into the border. Ashinayu looked at him quietly for a long time, then her lips moved as she said in a trembling voice, remember what you promised me, spare my father's life. Qingxiu pushed her away, his expression cold. I keep my word. Then he led the horse out. Behind him, Ashinayu suddenly called, hey, you be careful too. Come back alive. Qingxiu's body trembled. He turned his head and saw she had already turned and left. Ever since Su Xiaochun became pregnant, she had developed the habit of sleeping a lot, and her sleep quality was very good. Even with the huge commotion from Qingxiu's battle with the ladies last night, she hadn't been woken up. Early in the morning, after getting up and washing, she went to the kitchen. The breakfast had already been placed on the table by the cook, but there wasn't a single person at the table. She first went to knock on Ling Yuqing's door. In the past, Ling Yuqing and Lu Yunyun were always the earliest to get up. They had developed the habit of morning exercise, sometimes practicing martial arts in the courtyard, sometimes going to Qingxiu to practice their oral skills. But today, when Su Xiaochun knocked, there was no movement in the room. She pushed the door open and took a look inside. There was no one there. Strange, not in the room? Where did they go so early? She muttered. She went to Lu Yunyun's door and did the same, still no one inside. Puzzled, she knocked on the doors of Zhangsun Pingting, Ling Yuchan, and Ling Lizhu. Each room was empty. At that moment, a beautiful woman with foreign features was squatting at the doorway, holding a bun in her hand, eating with a heavy heart. Seeing Su Xiaochun looking at her, Ashinayu raised her hand weakly and pointed toward Qingxiu's room. Su Xiaochun went over and knocked on the door, but there was no response from inside. She pushed the door open and was stunned by what she saw. On the huge bed, like one in a big roadside inn, lay many snow-white delicate bodies in all sorts of strange sleeping positions, all sleeping soundly, each with a look of satisfied exhaustion. Zhangsun Pingting was competing with the future child of Ling Yuqing for food, occasionally smacking her lips twice. Ling Yuchan was curled up in Lu Yunyun's arms, holding the future child's food bowl. The princess had one leg thrown over Yunyang. Their sleeping poses could only be described as bizarre. Su Xiaochun's mouth hung open in disbelief. Even as a woman, the scene before her made her swallow a few times. Good heavens, they were all here? Her face flushed red as she quietly backed out of the room, closed the door, and stood at the entrance for a long time, unable to calm down. Ugh! Just then, the sound of dry heaving came from the doorway opposite. Following the sound, she saw the Turkic princess with one hand on the wall and the other on her chest, bending over and vomiting, more and more severely. Tears streamed down her face with the retching, and her complexion was sallow. Su Xiaochun went over and asked, Ashinayu, what's wrong? Are you feeling unwell? Ashinayu looked up briefly in the middle of her vomiting, patted her chest, and shook her head. No, just suddenly felt nauseous. Do you want me to get a doctor for you? Su Xiaochun asked. Ashinayu shook her head with a forced smile. No need, I feel much better now. All right. Su Xiaochun nodded and turned to leave, but had only taken a few steps when the sound of intense vomiting came from behind again. Her body trembled, and she turned back to look at Ashinayu in disbelief, her expression shifting. Vomiting, morning sickness? Her beautiful eyes widened in shock. Ashinayu's current condition was exactly like her own when she was just over a month pregnant, frequent vomiting with very strong morning sickness. Could it be that she's pregnant? But that shouldn't be. Her husband said he never touched her, and even Ashinayu herself had said so. Could it be they both lied? Su Xiaochun was now certain Ashinayu was pregnant. Her expression grew complicated as she went over to pat her back and asked, when did the vomiting start? Ashinayu frowned. 2 days ago. It's especially bad when eating. Even though I vomit, nothing comes out, and my appetite has gotten much bigger. Yes, she was definitely pregnant. Su Xiaochun was sure of it. Casually, she said to Ashinayu, from now on, come eat in the kitchen with us. Then she left. Ashinayu looked at Su Xiaochun's departing back, puzzled. Why had she suddenly become so kind? Usually, she was extremely cold toward her. Although she couldn't figure it out, it was still a good thing, at least her meals would be better from now on. After eating a little, Su Xiaochun sent a servant into the city to find a doctor. At first, Ashinayu didn't want the doctor to take her pulse, but she couldn't resist the insistence of the household's mistress. When the doctor was done, he said to Ashinayu, "This is vomiting caused by acclimatization issues. It may last a few days, but there's no need to worry. It will pass in a few days." Ashinayu nodded, looked at Su Xiaochun, and said with a faint smile, "See? I told you I'm not sick, it's just that I'm not used to the food and water here, so I got an upset stomach. It'll be fine in a few days. You don't have to worry about me." "Alright, then rest well." Su Xiaochun left the room with the doctor. When they reached the front courtyard, she stopped and asked, "Tell me, what's her condition?" The doctor cupped his hands and said, "Madam, she has a happy pulse, this woman is over a month pregnant. The vomiting is normal morning sickness." Su Xiaochun showed a, "just as I thought," expression, then dismissed the doctor. She personally picked a quick-witted maid from the servant ranks to attend to Ashinayu. This made Ashinayu very suspicious and more alert. Why the sudden kindness? She must have some ulterior motive. In truth, no, Su Xiaochun simply didn't want her husband's child to suffer. At Lantian military camp, Qingxiu was the first to arrive. After waiting for about half an hour, Ling Jing and several other generals arrived one after another. Seeing Qingxiu in the command tent, Ling Jing was surprised. "Lord Qing, you came so early?" Qingxiu smiled. "First time as commander, can't afford to be late. Since everyone's here, when will we muster the troops?" In fact, it wasn't that he got up early, he hadn't slept all night. Last night, he had attended to each of his wives in turn, fighting through the night, and finally satisfied them all. Ling Jing nodded. "Let's start now, come on." He took the drum from the command tent, went to the troop platform, and struck it. Tens of thousands of soldiers in the camp quickly assembled. Together with 100,000 new recruits, they formed two massive formations. The scene was grand, dark with people, like a sea of men, yet completely silent. Ling Jing scanned the crowd, nodded with satisfaction, and said loudly, "We raise troops for 1,000 days to use them in one moment. Tang's sons, the time to earn your military merits has come." Several days ago, scouts reported that Turkic leader Xieli Khan led 200,000 troops to attack Xinjiang prefecture, driving straight into the heart of Guangzhou. Along the way, they burned, killed, looted, corpses everywhere. They slaughtered our people with cruel means. Then Ling Jing began a long speech. It wasn't nonsense, this was the atmosphere a commander had to create. He needed to ignite the soldiers' blood and plant the thought, if we don't destroy the Turks, our wives, children, and families will be slaughtered. Of course, most of what Ling Jing said was true. As Li Jing's passionate speech stirred them up, the soldiers below the mustering platform were all filled with fighting spirit and boiling blood. Even the air seemed to be full of hatred toward the Turks. Right now, the Turks have already passed Linzhou. In as little as 3 days, they will reach the banks of the Weishui River. The Turkic cavalry numbers more than 200,000, but we do not have that many men. We have only 50,000 guarding the Weishui. Our numbers are far fewer, the enemy is 4 times our size. Are you afraid? Not afraid. Not afraid. Not afraid. The camp echoed with shouts like mountains and seas crashing, perfectly in unison, full of power. Li Jing raised his hand to press down, and the scene instantly quieted. He looked at Qingxiu and said, "Lord Qing, it's your turn to say a few words." Qingxiu was stunned. "You've already said everything. What am I supposed to say?" Li Jing chuckled. "As the commander, you should at least say something. At the very least, let the soldiers see your face. If the Turkic cavalry charges to our doorstep and our soldiers don't even recognize you, how will they protect you?" Qingxiu gave a wry smile. "All right, I'll say a few words." Li Jing addressed the soldiers below. "This time, I will serve as the overall commander of the Guanyi forces, in charge of all matters in this campaign. Serving as deputy commander is someone I'm sure you're all familiar with, our Tang dynasty's Shen Guohou, defender of the realm Marquis. Since he entered official service, the Marquis has achieved outstanding results. He has not only improved the lives of the common people and you all, but also made our nation extremely wealthy. Without him, we might not even have the supplies to fight this battle. This time, the Marquis will personally lead you to meet the Turks in battle. As for me, I will lead 100,000 troops to set up an ambush. Next, the Marquis will speak to you." After that, Li Jing stepped aside. Wearing full armor, Qingxiu stepped forward. 50,000 veteran soldiers looked straight at him, many eyes were filled with admiration and respect, with gratitude mixed in. Why did they look at him this way? It was simple, most of these men were sons of Guanzhong. Their elders had benefited from Qingxiu's policies, their quality of life greatly improved, so many of them felt deep gratitude toward him. Qingxiu spoke loudly, although this is my first time leading troops into battle, rest assured, I am not a rash fool. Since I am leading you to face the Turks, I will be responsible for your lives. I will be responsible for you, and you must be responsible for me. On the battlefield, orders must be obeyed and rewards and punishments made clear. I will make a personal promise, for every Turkic cavalryman you kill, in addition to the court's reward, I will personally give you 1 guan of money. The more enemies you kill, the greater the rewards. For every brother who dies in battle, in addition to the court's compensation, I will personally pay 10 guan. Good! The front ranks of soldiers shouted in excitement, their voices like a tidal wave. The cry spread quickly, and soon those in the back who couldn't hear clearly also understood. Everyone was extremely excited. This compensation was nearly double what the court gave. The court only gave 5 guan. Behind him, Li Jing, Cheng Yaojin, Yu Qigong, Zhang Liang, Hou Junji, and Duan Zhixuan were all dumbfounded. Good heavens, this was the first time they had seen a commander motivate his troops so lavishly. After all, there were 200,000 Turkic cavalry. If they were all killed, that would be 200,000 guan in rewards. Other than the extremely wealthy Chai Xiao, who else in the court could take out that much money? And that didn't even count the death compensations. If tens of thousands died, plus the kill rewards, it would be easily over 1,000,000 guan. Phew! Hou Junji sucked in a breath and said, Lord Qing, with incentives like this, aren't you afraid you'll have to sell your house and belongings? This isn't a joke, you'd better be careful. Qingxiu turned and smiled. Money is like a bastard turtle, when it's gone, we'll just earn more. What's a mere few 100,000 guan? A mere few 100,000? Zhang Liang's mouth twitched. Duan Zhixuan said eagerly, Lord Qing, you are a young hero. I feel an instant bond with you, how about we become sworn brothers? Me too. Hou Junji looked at Qingxiu with shining eyes, hoping to become sworn brothers as well. Zhang Liang curled his lip, showing disdain. Cheng Yaojin smacked his lips. TSK, what's a few 100,000 guan? This lad has made at least several million guan from wine and tea alone. A few 100,000 is nothing but pocket change to him. Hou Junji sucked in another breath, then suddenly grinned. I've heard Lord Qing is fond of taking concubines. My daughter is 16, and in another year she'll be of marrying age. Why don't we become in-laws? Qingxiu nearly stumbled and frowned. General Hou, please show some respect. I am not that kind of man. Your daughter is only 16, and you're in a hurry to marry her off? Are you even human? Hou Junji looked puzzled. What's wrong with 16? Don't Tang women usually marry at 13? I'm saying to wait another year, what's wrong with that? Move aside. Cheng Yaojin shoved Hou Junji away with an annoyed look. Old Hou, Lord Qing is not the man you think he is. Your daughter is too young. If you want to marry her off, wait 3 to 5 more years. Qingxiu didn't want to waste more words on someone like Hou Junji. He pressed his hand down toward the 50,000 soldiers, and the scene quickly grew quiet again. This is my personal reward system, but it is on the condition that we win this battle. If we lose, I'm sorry, but you won't get a single copper from me. A soldier in front shouted excitedly, we will win. 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 The shouts again rose like crashing waves. After that, everyone returned to the command tent. Li Jing, sitting at the commander's seat, said to Qingxiu, Lord Qing, the 100,000 new troops formation was trained by me. It's safer if I personally command them, don't you think? Qingxiu nodded. I think so too. Li Jing continued, then I'll leave these 50,000 cavalry to you. The 100,000 new troops formation doesn't need extra command. Duan Zhixuan will follow me as deputy general. The other generals will be under your command. No one objected. Li Jing said again, next, let's discuss how to march, how to set ambushes, and how to strike. Lord Qing, what's your plan? Yesterday afternoon, Qingxiu had familiarized himself with the place names and the terrain map. He stood up, came to the sand table, and pointed to a spot. We don't have much time. Before we split our forces, I want to dig horse traps in this flat area. First, it will slow the Turks' march, and second, it will reduce their combat strength. Li Jing smiled. That's exactly what I had in mind. No time to waste, shall we set out now? Yes, let's go now. Soon, they led 100,000 new troops and 50,000 veterans to the flatlands around Weinan. This was the road the Turkic cavalry had to take to reach Chang'an. 150,000 men spread out, using tang shovels in their hands to start digging pits. The scene was extremely spectacular. In just half a morning, they had dug a stretch of long ground, 4 or 5 zhang wide, full of horse traps, at least 100,000 of them. By the afternoon, all the horse traps had been covered with a layer of dry grass and soil. Before dark, they returned to the plains north of the Wei River, then began setting up camp and cooking. Somewhere in the veterans' camp, an old soldier was holding a food bowl, looking at a fair-skinned, very good-looking soldier in front of him. He frowned and asked, "Hey, how come I've never seen you before? You look too delicate." The fair-skinned soldier raised his eyes, smiling in an honest manner. "I was transferred here from the left guard. It's normal you haven't seen me." The old soldier looked puzzled. "Why does your voice sound a bit girly? What did you say?" The fair-skinned soldier's almond eyes widened. Grabbing the old soldier's collar with one hand, he lifted him up and said fiercely, "You're the one who's girly. Insult me again and I'll beat you to death." The old soldier shrank his neck in fear and quickly patted the man's arm, smiling to appease him. "Misunderstanding, misunderstanding. I was just joking. No need to take it seriously. With strength like that, you're definitely a real man." Only then did the fair-skinned soldier let him go and silently pick up his bowl to eat. Inside the command tent, one of Li Jing's personal guards ran in and said, "Commander, someone from your household is here, waiting outside." Li Jing frowned. "Let them in." A young servant entered the tent. Li Jing asked in confusion, "Su Chun, why are you here?" The young man named Su Chun looked flustered. "Master, the young lady is missing. She left the house this morning and hasn't returned. Madam is worried and sent me to ask if she came to the camp with you." "Ingqi is missing?" Li Jing stood up suddenly, losing all appetite. "That girl, could she have sneaked into the camp again?" His face filled with anger. He set his bowl and chopsticks on the table and told a guard, "Call my entire guard detail here." Soon, more than 30 of his personal guards entered the command tent. Li Jing said in a deep voice, "My daughter is missing and hasn't been home all day. She might be hiding here in camp again. Search with me. Keep it quiet, just check faces. Outwardly, say we're looking for Turkic spies. Go." Li Jing and more than a dozen guards split up, each taking a team, going tent to tent. The search was fast. Clearly this wasn't the first time this had happened. Li Jing's guards had seen Li Yingqi before. Even in armor and disguised as a man, they could still recognize her instantly. In less than one incense stick's time, they had searched several dozen tents. The noise outside drew the attention of soldiers in one tent. An old soldier, who had planned to rest early, muttered to himself, "Strange, why is it so noisy out there? What's going on?" He put on his shoes, went outside to look, then came back into the tent. The fair-skinned soldier asked, "Brother, what's happening outside?" While taking off his armor, the old soldier replied, "The commander himself is leading the guards to search the camp for Turkic spies. Fortunately, they haven't found any yet. They also said to report any unfamiliar faces." Brother, aren't you an unfamiliar face?" The fair-skinned soldier's face showed panic, but luckily the tent was dark and the others couldn't see clearly. The soldier kept calm. "Yeah, I'm new here. Go tell the commander there's a new face here, let him come and see if I'm a spy." The old soldier chuckled awkwardly. "How could you be a spy? Don't take it the wrong way." The fair-skinned soldier stood up. "I'm going to take a piss. If the commander comes while I'm gone, tell him to wait for me. I'll be right back." "Got it, go on." The old soldier waved casually. The fair-skinned soldier took the chance to leave the tent. Li Yingqi left and quietly watched from behind another tent, then swaggered toward a section that had already been searched. She acted bold because there were many night patrols in camp, and no one noticed an extra patrol soldier. In the cleared section, she suddenly felt unsure. There were hundreds of tents, and she didn't know which to enter. If she went into the wrong one and was recognized as a stranger, she'd be taken for a Turkic spy. That would not only embarrass her but also disgrace her father. Suddenly, she spotted several command tents in the distance, and her eyes lit up. She remembered that during campaigns, her father's officers often discussed strategy late into the night, sometimes sleeping together in any spare spot. This often left command tents empty. Last time, she had hidden in an empty command tent to avoid discovery. If she hadn't been too nervous to sleep and stayed in bed the next morning, Li Jing wouldn't have caught her. She hoped there would be an empty command tent again. And near the command area, she wouldn't have to worry about being searched. The most dangerous place was often the safest. She crept closer and observed the tents. 2 had no people inside, 1 had 3 figures, whispering. "I'll just have to take the gamble. Worst case, I'll get caught." She chose a tent and slipped inside. No one was there. Feeling pleased, she silently prayed the officer stationed here wouldn't return. She checked the bedding and sniffed the quilt, her face lighting up. Smells nice. The blanket even has a fragrance. Huh? There's food here? And wine. Excited, she opened the food bundle. Inside were a dozen dark objects giving off a mix of spices. If someone from modern times saw them, they would exclaim, "Big sausages?" Yes, they were big, dark sausages, smelling delicious. Li Yingqi, who couldn't get used to camp food and had barely touched her dinner, couldn't resist the aroma. She bit into one, the flavor filling her mouth, making her feel wrapped in happiness. As she ate, she looked through other items. Then, seeing a large bag full of round, oily things covered in salt grains, she was baffled. What is this? I've never seen anything like it. Li Yingqi picked up a fried peanut and put it in her mouth. The crispy crunch made her eyes light up. Strange, what is this? Crisp and tasty, not bad. She looked through the rest of the food in the bag. There was a big pile of dried beef jerky covered with red powdered seasoning. Aside from these 3 kinds of food, there was nothing else. She tore off a bite of the chewy beef jerky, tasting a spicy flavor. The spiciness was within her tolerance. Although she hissed at the heat, her eyes lit up again. She took another big bite, her happy eyes narrowing like crescent moons. While eating, Li Yingqi picked up a glass bottle and examined it, her brows immediately relaxing into a smile. What a beautiful glass bottle, such a delicate wine container. The wine inside must be a fine drink. She opened the stopper and took a sniff. A fragrance of alcohol mixed with the scent of rice entered her nose, making her perk up in surprise. It's rice wine. Perfect for me. Looks like this general knows how to enjoy himself. She took off her shoes, sat cross-legged on the bedding, and sipped the rice wine. The sweet taste made her reluctant to stop. This rice wine is so smooth. Much better than the fermented rice wine sold at the market. Rice wine is mild, 1 bottle shouldn't cause any trouble, right? Muttering to herself, she alternated, a bite of spicy beef jerky, a sip of rice wine, a peanut, a sip of rice wine, a bite of sausage, a sip of rice wine. Before long, the glass bottle was empty. No hint of drunkenness, another bottle. Yes, just one more. She opened a second bottle, eating and drinking until her cheeks turned red and she began to feel tipsy. Half an hour later, Li Jing had finished searching the entire camp and returned to his command tent. He waved his hand with a sigh. All right, disperse. Looks like Yingqi isn't in the camp. One guard said, "Commander, the young lady is blessed and will be fine. It's also possible we just didn't find her, or she avoided our search. In any case, don't worry too much. Go rest. We'll ignore her for now." Thinking of how his daughter had practiced martial arts since childhood, and that even 10 men couldn't get close to her, Li Jing felt more at ease. In another tent, Qingxiu, Cheng Yaojin, and Yu Qigong were sitting together, each holding jerky, with peanuts and sliced sausage in front of them, and a bottle of rice wine in the other hand. Cheng Yaojin took a bite of jerky, a sip of wine, and smiled blissfully. "Nephew, your jerky is amazing. And these peanuts, perfect drinking snacks." Yu Qigong looked equally pleased. "And this rice wine, so much better than the market stuff. Shame it's not stronger." Qingxiu laughed quietly. "Alcohol is banned in the camp. If we brought strong liquor, the smell would give us away. If the commander found out, we'd get flogged. Rice wine is different, it's basically sweet fermented rice soup. Not counted as alcohol." "Heh, true enough. Cheers." After finishing his wine, Qingxiu stood up. "I'll leave the sausage and jerky to you too. The wine is good, but don't overdo it. Rest early, tomorrow we plan the battle. I'll head back. Safe travels, nephew." "Rest well, Deputy Commander." After leaving, Qingxiu first relieved himself, then lifted the edge of his own tent with a sly smile to check from his god's eye view. Sure enough, there was an extra person inside. He had noticed the fair-faced young soldier earlier while drinking, and recognized her as Li Yingqi in disguise. He'd let her stay on purpose, and now came back early to see what she was up to. What he saw surprised him, a few empty wine bottles by the bedding, sausage and jerky noticeably missing. Li Yingqi had taken off her armor and was lying asleep in her clothes, her heroic face flushed, looking especially tempting. Her tall, curvy figure lay half-curled under the blanket, shapely hips raised, unlike anything he'd seen before. They were the perfect, peach hips. Frowning, Qingxiu muttered, "How careless can a person be? This is a military camp, not your home, and you're sleeping like a log with no guard up at all. Don't you know how dangerous the world is? No brains at all." He took off his shoes, stepped over, and lightly kicked her hip. She just waved her hand sleepily and mumbled, "Mother, don't bother me, let me sleep a bit longer." His mouth twitched. "So now I'm your mother? Well, fine. Let's teach you how dangerous the world can be." Smiling to himself, he removed his armor and lay down beside her. My food isn't free, and neither is the wine. You have to pay a price. As he spoke, his hands roamed over her again and again, but the girl slept like a dead pig, without a single reaction. Eventually, he lost interest and started feeling sleepy himself. Just as he began to drift off, Lianqi turned over to face him. He inhaled sharply. Damn, who could stand this? The whole night, he couldn't sleep, staring at her nearly perfect, healthy figure. Half asleep, Lianqi slowly opened her eyes. The camp wasn't dark thanks to the brazier outside, so she could clearly see the tent's interior. Her face felt warm. She opened her eyes wider, and saw a human face. Shocked, she sat bolt upright, instantly sobered. Qingxiu smiled lazily. I thought you'd sleep till morning. Didn't expect you to wake up halfway through the night. She opened her mouth to shout, but he quickly covered it. This is the military camp. You don't want your father to find you, right? Best not to yell. Only then did she remember where she was. She pushed his hand away and finally saw his face clearly. It's you? Lianqi froze. Never in her wildest dreams did she think she'd end up in the tent of her nemesis, the Marquis of Zhen. Images of him beating her flashed in her mind, and her face flushed red as she panicked. Qingxiu kicked the empty wine bottle by the bedding, rummaged through his food bag, and said playfully, You can really drink, down 2 bottles of my rice wine in one go, ate several of my sausages, and this many peanuts too. Well? How are you going to pay me back? Lianqi, still lost in her memories, blushed deeper and stammered. I'll pay you back. When the war's over and we return to Chang'an, I'll repay you. Exactly as it was, not a bit less. Lianqi opened her mouth as if to speak, then stopped, finally puffing her cheeks in annoyance. So what if I drank a couple bottles of your wine and ate some of your food? Your family's so rich, you don't lack these things. You're really petty. Qingxiu frowned. Even if my family's rich, it's still my property, what's it got to do with you? And have you ever even seen sausages or peanuts like these? You've never even seen them before, so how do you know they're not rare delicacies? Fine, then tell me, how should I pay? How much? Qingxiu began spouting nonsense, pointing at the peanuts with a straight face. This is called the immortal bean. My master personally picked it from the bitter cold land of Baiyujing, risking great effort to send me this tiny amount. How could it be measured in money? Lianqi's eyes widened. What? Immortal beans from Baiyujing? What else? This is no ordinary plant, it grows atop 10,000-foot ice peaks in Baiyujing's frozen lands, absorbing the essence of sun and moon. It blooms once in 3 years, fruits once in 3 years, ripens in another 3 years. One single bean takes 9 years to mature. Lianqi stared at the small bag of peanuts, her heart filling with guilt. Qingxiu's voice grew more intense, spittle flying. What you ate isn't just beans, it's countless living lives. Lives? Lianqi shivered, pitifully asking. How does this have anything to do with human lives? Qingxiu righteously explained. One immortal bean in 9 years can heal the gravest illnesses, bring a dying man back to life. No matter the sickness, just one can save him. You ate so many in one breath, isn't that like swallowing countless lives? Lianqi panicked inside, but still muttered. Nonsense. If they're immortal beans, why don't I feel anything after eating so many? They're not supplements, they're medicine to save lives. You're not sick, so of course you feel nothing. If you don't believe me, I'll find a sick soldier to test it. He turned to go, but Lianqi, flustered, grabbed his arm. No, don't. I believe you. If someone came, they'd discover she was a woman, even if it didn't get back to her father, word would spread in the camp. If her identity was exposed, her father would be humiliated. And besides, the Marquis of Zhen spoke so convincingly that she believed him. Qingxiu's tone grew serious. Why did I bring so many immortal beans to the battlefield? So that when the war starts, I can give them to the soldiers and save as many lives as possible. But you ate so many at once. Now, how will you repay me? Lianqi squatted down, hugging herself, sobbing softly. I'm sorry. I really didn't know they were immortal beans. If I had known they were medicine, I would never have stolen them. I just tasted one out of curiosity, found it delicious, and couldn't help eating more. I'll never steal your immortal beans again. Please don't tell my father. Her tearful, pleading eyes looked at him. Don't beg me yet. Tell me how you'll pay. Qingxiu's eyes were already full of amusement. This girl looked carefree, but he hadn't expected her to be so naive and timid. I don't know, she said, lowering her head. You ate so many immortal beans and don't know how to repay. To Qingxiu's surprise, she suddenly dropped to her knees with a thud. I'm sorry. I truly don't know. As long as you don't tell my parents, whatever you ask, I'll do. But I really don't have any immortal beans. Could I use something else instead? Do you have anything to substitute? She looked down at herself, realizing she had nothing valuable on her. Dejected, she said, I really have nothing here, but at home I have some private savings, about 2 or 3,000 guan. So in your eyes, immortal beans that could save hundreds of lives are worth 2,000 guan? Then, what do you want? If I have it, I'll give it to you. Qingxiu rubbed his chin, thought for a moment, and said, Forget money, my family has more than enough. If nothing else works, pay with your body. Huh? Li Yingqi gasped, staring at him in panic, flustered. She had never imagined he would suggest such an outrageous thing. Her face went pale, then flushed bright red as she lowered her head, struggling with the thought. Qingxiu smiled and shook his head. Forget. But before he could finish, Li Yingqi seemed to have made up her mind. Fine. I can pay with my body. But, she lowered her head shyly. How many times would it take to repay? Qingxiu's mouth twitched. Good grief, how could she be this slow? Didn't she understand he was about to say, forget it? After a pause, he said, You ate about 300 immortal beans. 1 repayment for each bean. Her eyes widened. 300 beans? I'd have to repay with my body 300 times? If it was once a day, that would mean a whole year of debt. Qingxiu grinned. 1 immortal bean equals 1 life equals 1 repayment. Still think you're losing out? Of course, he never intended to make her do it, the world is dangerous, and he just wanted to teach Li Jing's young daughter a lesson, to give her some experience in guarding against bad people. Was that wrong? No, where's the wrong in that? Li Yingqi bit her lip, closed her eyes, lifted her chin, and with jade-like hands lightly pulled apart the collar of her top. The garment slipped off her shoulders. The tunic slipped off as smoothly as silk, yet Li Yingqi's jade-like figure was even smoother than silk. Her cool skin was clear and distinct even in the darkness of night. Li Yingqi's body was extremely well-proportioned, slim, delicate arms, a figure divided 3 to 7, clear abdominal lines, wearing only thin underpants below and a chest wrap above, giving the impression of a kunoichi who lived a comfortable life. Although the light in the tent was dim, it did not hinder Qingxiu's God's eye view in the least. The scene before him was entirely in sight. Even with all he had seen, he could not help but silently marvel at Li Yingqi's perfect form. His temples began to pulse. Seeing that the other party had not acted for some time, Li Yingqi opened her eyes. Her face was already filled with shyness, her gaze moist as if it could drip water. When he saw her open her eyes, Qingxiu patted the spot beside him and said, Come, sit next to me. Li Yingqi didn't fuss, she walked straight over and lay down, hands folded over her lower abdomen, taking a deep breath and speaking in a trembling voice. Be gentle, and be quick. I don't want to be discovered, and I especially don't want my father to know I'm in the camp, or else he'll lock me up at home again. Clearly, Li Jing had locked her up before, more than once. Qingxiu pulled her delicate body into his arms and whispered in her ear. No rush. This is the army camp, I don't want anyone to watch in person. You can owe me for now. Repay me after the war. Li Yingqi looked at him with gratitude and said softly. Thank you. Qingxiu's mouth twitched. Really? After all this, she's thanking me? But thinking it over, he understood, she must have misunderstood his meaning, thinking he refused now only to protect her identity as a woman in the army, thus saving her reputation. Qingxiu chuckled awkwardly. Sleep first. We'll talk about repaying the immortal beans later. Li Yingqi felt even more grateful to him. It was the first time she had been held by a man, and her body was tense, unbearably nervous. She barely slept that night. When the sky outside brightened, she put her tunic back on, donned her armor, and returned to her male disguise. Outside came the sound of a gong, along with someone shouting, Wake up, breakfast. Qingxiu was already dressed. If you don't want your father to find out you're in the camp, stay in my tent. I'll bring you food later. Li Yingqi said gratefully. Thank you. You're welcome. Tonight, take off your chest wrap to thank me, that'll be enough. With that, Qingxiu left the tent, leaving Li Yingqi blushing and both shy and annoyed. After eating breakfast and bringing some to Li Yingqi, Qingxiu went to Li Jing's command tent. Li Jing looked around and said, Marquis of Zhen, I'll leave the Weinan battlefield to you. I hope you won't disappoint His Majesty or me. I will now take 100,000 new troops to find an ambush site. If anything changes on the battlefield, I'll send word immediately. Qingxiu cupped his hands. Rest assured, Grand Marshal. Even if I'm not a great general, aren't there still General Cheng and General Yuqi here? You can go without worry. At these words, Li Jing and the others all changed expression slightly. Chang Yaojin frowned. Deputy Commander, on the battlefield, split command is a taboo. Discussing opinions is fine, but the command of the army must be in the hands of one main commander. No matter what orders you give, we deputy generals will follow them, but don't divide the authority among us. Qingxiu froze for a moment, then nodded. All right, it's my first time commanding in battle, I have no experience. Li Jing said. They can still give suggestions, but the control of the war must remain in your hands as the commander. After explaining a few more points, Li Jing led 100,000 troops away. In the morning, Changsun Wuji escorted the first batch of grain and fodder. The second batch would arrive within 3 days. After completing the delivery, he left the camp. In the afternoon, Li Er arrived with a small unit. After Li Jing's departure, his command tent naturally became Qingxiu's. Qingxiu received Li Er there. By Li Er's side was a young man, introduced as the leader of an Air Corps squad, commanding several hundred men. Marquis of Zhen, where do you plan to place the cannons and hot air balloons? Li Er asked. Qingxiu pointed to the area south of the Wei River on the sand table. I plan to place the cannons in Weinan, and the hot air balloons in Weibei. Li Er frowned. All the cannons in Weinan? That's not good. When the Turkic army reaches the Wei River, they'll occupy Weinan, while we can only defend from Weibei. If the cannons are in Weinan, won't the Turks easily capture them? Even if they can't take them away, they might try to sink them in the river. Qingxiu replied. Your Majesty may be a general by training, but you don't understand our battlefield layout. Better not to offer opinions. Li Er's mouth opened, his old face flushed, expression awkward, even a bit angry. Fine, I won't interfere. But you'd better protect those cannons. If even one is lost, I'll hold you responsible. Li Er turned his face away like a sulky wife, looking haughty. Qingxiu chuckled. Your Majesty, we have arrangements in Weinan. We've dug no fewer than 100,000 horse traps. For the Turkic army to reach the Wei River, they'll have to lose thousands of troops and spend enormous effort, or else they'll have to detour. If they detour, they'll enter here, and behind this is another stretch of horse traps, all within cannon range. Once they enter, over 100 cannons will fire at once, catching them off guard. The hot air balloons in Weibei have twice the range of the cannons, covering the entire cannon range. It will be extremely difficult for the Turks to charge into the cannon ambush point. Besides, the cannons are so heavy that once we remove their wheels, it's impossible for them to take them. And we're not afraid of them sinking the cannons in the way. After the battle, we can send divers to retrieve them. With such a bombardment, the Turkic army will suffer heavy losses. While their morale is shaken, we'll launch a fierce attack. Forced to retreat, they'll avoid the horse traps. That's when our ambushers strike, splitting into two forces to form a three-sided encirclement. The Turks will inevitably pass through more horse traps. Even if they get through, how many cavalry will they have left? At most half. At that point, we'll surround and pursue them, driving them into the position of the 100,000 new troops. The Turkic army will be annihilated. Li Er was stunned, mouth agape. Inside the tent, Li Yingqi, placed there under the guard of Qingxiu's men, also looked at him with fiery admiration. If everything really went as he predicted, the Turks would be nothing to fear. Qingxiu's military arrangements reassured Li Er, and his earlier displeasure vanished without a trace. Li Er smiled and said, with such a thorough plan from you, Marquis Qing, I'll wait for the news of you and the soldiers returning in triumph. His gaze swept the room and finally landed on Li Yingqi, who stood quietly in the corner without a sense of presence. His brows furrowed, and looking at Qingxiu, his expression again showed displeasure. Marquis Qing, don't treat war like a game. This is a battlefield, not your home. What's the meaning of bringing a bed-warming maid to the army camp? Bed-warming maid? Qingxiu was puzzled at first, then the corner of his mouth twitched in sudden realization as he glanced at the cross-dressing Li Yingqi standing not far behind him. Hearing this, Li Yingqi's body trembled, her face slowly turning red. She lowered her head, not daring to look up. Bed-warming maid? What bed-warming maid? Yu Qigong looked left and right in confusion, then scratched his head. Your Majesty, there's no bed-warming maid here. You must be mistaken. Chang Yaojin turned his gaze to Li Yingqi, the corner of his mouth also twitching. He thought to himself, this kid sure knows how to have fun, even in war he has to bring a bed warmer. That's some stamina. Zhang Liang showed open disdain. Ho Junji muttered, and you called me perverted. You're no better yourself. Li Er said unhappily. Still, if you win the battle, I'll turn a blind eye. But if you lose, I'll announce to the whole realm that you took a bed-warming maid with you to war, and your name will be in ruins. After speaking, Li Er was about to leave when a scout shouted from outside. Report. Grand Marshal, the Turkic cavalry is 100 li away. They are expected to reach the Wei River tomorrow morning. Scout again. After the scout left, Lier said solemnly, "This battle is in your hands, generals. Tomorrow at the Imperial Court meeting, I'll bring civil and military officials up to the city wall at Chongxian Gate to watch the battle in person. Don't let me down." He left after those words. Once Lier was gone, Cheng Yaojin came over, clicking his tongue as he circled the cross-dressed Li Yingqi. "Tsk, kid, your bedwarmer is quite a beauty. But, why does she look a bit familiar to me?" Qingxiu's heart stirred. Li Yingqi was already terrified, head lowered into her chest, not daring to lift it. Let me see. Yu Qigong was about to approach, but Qingxiu grabbed him by the waistband and pulled him back. Qingxiu said with displeasure, "What bedwarming maid? She's my personal guard, just looks a bit effeminate. She's shy by nature. How can you stare at her face like that? Come on, over here, discussing battle plans is more important." He dragged Cheng Yaojin and Yu Qigong to the sand table. Only then did Li Yingqi feel relieved. Qingxiu glanced back at her, signaling with his eyes. Li Yingqi kept her head down and ran all the way out, not stopping until she ducked into Qingxiu's sleeping tent. Only then did she relax. She was drenched in sweat, her body sticky as if covered by crawling ants. In the command tent. By mid-afternoon, Qingxiu had completed his full deployment. Ho Junji would lead 10,000 troops, departing before dawn to strike the rear left of the Turkic army 20 li away. Yu Qigong would lead another 10,000 to strike at the same time. After both attacks, they would wait 2 incense sticks time, then strike again along the original route. Zhang Liang would lead 10,000, maneuvering near the two forces to provide support. The remaining 20,000 would be split. Cheng Yaojin would guard the artillery with 10,000 elite soldiers, while Qingxiu would guard the hot air balloons with another 10,000. The arrangements finished, the sun was setting, and the order was given to set up camp and cook. After dinner, it was already night. A scout reported that the Turkic army had camped 60 li south of Weinan, only 60 li now separated the two forces. Returning to his tent, Qingxiu removed his armor, preparing to rest early for the battle. After last night, Li Yingqi was still shy, but no longer as stiff as before. She sat in the corner of the bedding, cheeks flushed, looking at Qingxiu with a complicated expression. Qingxiu opened some dried beef and uncorked a bottle of rice wine. "Eating and drinking," he said. "What are you looking at me for? Looking won't get you food or drink. Who told you to steal so much last night?" Li Yingqi said awkwardly. I'm not looking at you, I just want to bathe." She looked at him for help. Qingxiu frowned. "What nonsense. This is the army camp, not your home. You think you can bathe whenever you want? Forget it, tidy yourself and rest early." Li Yingqi nearly pleaded. "When they almost found out I was a woman this afternoon, I sweated a lot. My underclothes